Well, it's CES 2025.
Yep.
We've made it. Well, nah, technically, I shouldn't say that because
We're-
we're not shipping out till Saturday.
Downhill
so
slope.
Yeah, we are on the other end of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome everybody. Oh, and I didn't mute my laptop. Rookie move. Hey, it's okay. I'm tired. It's the end of the week. This is what you're gonna get. You're gonna get Punchy Adam. Are you gonna get Punchy Mark?
I don't know if I ever get punchy.
You don't get Punchy?
Not really.
What about like a fruit punch?
What?
Punch bowl?
What?
Yeah, no. All right. Well, what about Russ?
Yeah, we're heading on a great path.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Hey, it's okay. This is the pre-show.
I've never been punchy a day in my life, so we're good.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
I don't know if I believe that. Keith May. If there's somebody who
Somebody
gets punchy.
Based upon the conversations we've already had.
Okay. Yeah, I will say
No.
you probably might be more punchy than I am, like
Yeah.
consistently in your life.
I've been eating a lot of hot food, so it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we tried to find you some hot honey when we were at Walgreens, where we got this fine assortment of goodies.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we got you a little smoky because we were
I'll
like,
take
oh,
that.
you're obviously from an area where you love moonshine. Have you ever made moonshine? Okay, Russ. Back over to you.
I've had moonshine. Yeah,
Oh,
I had
I
it,
should
yeah.
have
My
that too.
brother-in-law's wedding. Oh, that's a good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Apple pie moonshine is really
It was something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but Keith, have you made moonshine? That's the question.
It's
I can't.
isn't
Russ,
it-
No comment.
Russ,
Yeah.
you were in the military.
Was.
Some secret stashes
Down
around?
there.
Yeah, so there are guys
Engine
on the ship who
compartment?
would do that stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
But, nothing
Like
for me.
toilet wine,
Yeah.
right?
Some
right.
corn mash.
Similar. Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hello. We're sitting here. It's the
There was a game a while back that got delisted from every platform for like a really long time, and then somebody made it to where you could play it again, and it only goes up to 1080p. And I run a 1440p panel,
Yeah.
so with integer scaling, I just ran it 720p. So I don't have, I don't like the pixel crawl that you get
Yeah.
from running a non-native, pixel to pixel.
What game is it? A Transformers game?
No,
Oh.
it's similar.
Okay.
It's actually the Wolverine game.
Okay.
The
Interesting.
Wolverine Origins Unleashed. It was
Oh, I
like-
remember that
Oh,
game.
I've
Yeah.
heard of it.
Yeah, you can't get it.
Right.
It's abandonedware at
Right.
this point.
Right.
So once it's officially registered as
Yeah.
abandonware, there's somebody on Reddit had taken a very clean image. And if you
Right.
play these games, I play with a controller, so I sit
Right.
back, prop my feet up. And
Yeah.
I'm not up against the screen,
Mm.
and it looks good from the five or 6 feet away I am from
Yeah.
a 34-inch panel.
So the Legion Go, it's got the 1600p display, and so
Yeah.
that's 800p 4 times, right?
Yeah.
And so you can play games in 800p, and they've got the BIOS, or not the BIOS, but the driver set so that you can turn on integer scaling, which is not something you can do on usually on a handheld. It's
Yeah.
only on laptops for some reason. And so, yeah, it's one of those unique things. And so
Yeah.
I'll play games at 800p on that.
I love integer scaling for that reason.
Okay. Well, yeah, I went over there and I engaged potato mode. I called up Dr. Ian Cuttress and said, hey, give me some of that potato. So guess what? 720p, 30 frames a second. That's what you're going to get
Nice.
from hotel
Yeah.
Wi-Fi.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So,
Buttery smooth.
yeah, we're going to go like, yeah, no, it's fine. And if it's really a train wreck, then just watch the pre-recorded later, whatever. But hey, you know what? We got people here. Thank you, friends of the show, for hanging out. We're hanging out here at CES. Obviously, the end of a long week. Yeah,
Yep.
it's been a time.
Yep.
So, and then I know we're holding you from watching your favorite Notre Dame play some
Notre Dame,
football.
Penn State's on right now.
Yeah.
Sports ball.
Or do you have it on the side? You just every once in a
Yeah,
while.
I'm having the same problems with the hotel Wi-Fi and the
Oh,
5G that
yeah,
yours, so
yeah.
I can't even stream it over here. Like
Oh.
stupid Xfinity wants me to authenticate, then it gets me in this doom loop where I authenticate, then it goes back and says you need to authenticate again. So right now I'm just like, hell with it.
Yeah.
0-0. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, but
Uh,
I'm wearing, notice the green.
there you go.
Green's there for a reason. Yep.
College football, not my jam, but let's do it.
It's okay.
Yeah, we talked about your old Smoky. We also got some screwballs, and then
Looks
some
good.
Coors Light. I'm going to talk about the Coors Light once we get started. What do you think? How you feeling? No?
We're good.
We're good? Okay, cool.
Potato bones on.
Yep.
Potato mode on. That's all we need. So, yeah, ready to roll the intro? I'm going to make one up here on the fly. You ready?
Episode 330.
Thank you. I was just yeah. How'd you know? I was looking at the camera thinking, I don't know what number this is. Ready? In this episode of The Full Nerd, live from CES. And welcome everybody to episode 330 of the Full Nerd Podcast, PCWorld's premier podcast about PC building. We're here at CES 2025. I am not alone, though. Well, I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Adam Patrick Murray. I'm the fill-in host of the Full Nerd. I am not alone. We're here in a hotel suite, and I'm joined on the couch by one Keith May. Hello, Keith May.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I like your shirt. It is not your typical style with the collar, but you're rocking it.
Trying to elevate myself.
Also, since Brad couldn't be here, you're the beard of the group.
That's true.
It's a large beard to fill, but I'm trying the best I can.
Yeah. Brad, hopefully he's feeling better, getting there. Also on the couch is one Mark Hockman.
Hey,
Hello,
everyone.
Mark.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Another long week. Yep.
Another long week.
Almost done. Yeah, I feel okay. It's been, I think we were talking about this beforehand. I feel a little bit better than I did last year. Things are manageable. I mean, I'm getting enough sleep, not too hungover, so.
Good. At least one of us.
Yeah. I'm trying to be responsible. We'll see how it holds out.
Speaking of responsible, we got Russ from Retro Game Core here on the challenge on the couch. That's the word I was trying to think of. Hello.
Hi. How you doing?
Yeah. You've been on the podcast before, but it was remote.
It was
your first time here in person.
In person. Yeah,
I've been able to
shake your guys' hands. It's amazing. Yeah, it's good. You know, you're as tall as I expected. So
tall as wow. Okay, I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. Yeah. No, but you know, this is not a normal episode. Obviously, we're here at CES 2025. Usually, we do this at a booth. Unfortunately, we had some scheduling issues. It didn't work out. That's okay. We're trying this. This is the first time the Full Nerd has been live from a hotel room. So you know, it's kind of a different vibe. We're just chilling here. Yep. And we're going to talk about the news of CES 2025 and then talk about some of our favorite hardware that we saw, for sure. Before we do that, obviously, I think we need to talk about Gordon. And in Gordon's memory, I got us a bunch of Coors Light. Not only that, these Coors Light have the Raiders logo on them. If you did not know, Coors Light was Gordon's go-to beer. I cannot stand Gordon, I love Gordon. I cannot stand Coors Light, but I'm gonna drink one just for Gordon. So, anybody want to cheers me?
Cheers. I'm gluten free, so I didn't have any beer, but
yeah. No disrespect to Gordon.
To
Gordon. All right. Oh yeah. Nope. Not a fan, but that's okay. It's for Gordon. And hey, I'll tell you what.
I was surprised.
Go ahead. It's beer. I'll tell you what. You know, one of the things I was bummed about going into this is that obviously Gordon couldn't be here with us, and I think there is a lot of this news we're going to talk about that he would be like super jazzed to hear about. But there's been so many stories this whole week being shared. People talking about Gordon, sharing memories, laughing, some crying, all that kind of stuff. Everyone's been super supportive. Super awesome. So I was talking to somebody the other day, you know, kind of bummed out that Gordon couldn't be here. But this person, you know who you are, said actually, like, with all this love and energy, Gordon is here. Like, there's so many people talking about him. He's here in spirit. So yeah, and we're here doing the work, covering it the way he liked it, because this is what he loved. He loved being here,
right?
Chilling with people. Yeah. Like just covering the news and all that stuff. So yeah, Gordon has definitely been in our thoughts all this week, and yeah, awesome memories. Nothing new to report on, you know, the front there, but I think we just move on with it. The impossible pivot. So to Gordon, hopefully drink all this Coors Light, but yeah. All right, well, news. So should we start from the beginning? The beginning of time.
A long time ago.
Yeah, so we got the big three. We might as well just go in order, because I think it probably they were here. They were here. They showed off some stuff. We'll get to it.
Right.
But Intel, I think going into it, a lot of people were like, "Who's going to be on stage? What are they going to do? What are they going to announce?" Yeah, I mean, they had plenty of stuff to talk about, but the big thing for our purposes was Arrow Lake HX laptops, right?
Right. Arrow Lake. This is the Arrow Lake's debut into mobile, and obviously, Arrow Lake was kind of had a mixed reputation on desktop, right? So the interesting thing is, of course, is that it just doesn't debut in mobile; it's debuting in the Core HX, which is Intel's processor for gaming laptops. So I'm going to be really interested to see what the reaction is, both from the PC makers themselves as well as from enthusiasts, because it just they had their part of the problem, of course, was the fact that it was just they had some issues, right? And so they had to go through this huge multi-step, multi-month process of just like, okay, we need the power profiles, we need BIOS updates, we need all this stuff to come up with better performance and so forth. And
you made Keith upset. He left the couch.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's fine.
Yes,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. And anywho, so we had the Core H debut, we had the Core HX debut, we had some additional Core U products as well. So the interesting efficiency cores, but they also built in the low power efficiency
So
cores.
like so this kind of like Meteor Lake.
There's
Oh
three.
yeah,
There's
so the
absolutely-
LPE cores.
Yeah, it's not
I
Meteor
didn't
Lake,
even know
but
that.
it's actually designed like Meteor Lake in the
Yeah.
fact that we've got the three,
That's
the
interesting.
the P versus E versus LPE.
But those are for like thin and light, like low power.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They kind of position them as performance processors, but I think of them sort of just mainstream laptops, right? So I mean, these are the kind of things that would just be like most laptop vendors.
Well, in terms of Arrow Lake, real quick, the Arrow Lake, obviously, the launch was the launch. they had the kind of the announcement before the end of the year saying, hey, listen, we did a deep diagnostic on what happened.
Right.
Here's how we're going to address it. Did they follow up anything?
They
here?
did actually. So first of all,
For both desktop and laptop,
right.
obviously.
So laptops were never affected in the first place, but right. But desktops, they was it wood around here to knock on. They say they're finally done with it all, right? And they actually went through and they a bunch of announcements, and this particular bit came at the very end. But I mean, if I remember correctly, I actually jotted some notes on this. I think it was.
See, he's responsible. He's got notes.
I try to do what's here. So where was it? It was So I mean, basically they said so if you actually looked at the pre-mitigation stuff. So if you looked at go back in time a year basically or whatever it might be. Right. So your performance in like Cyberpunk would increase by 26%. Pre-mitigation, post-mitigation, which is pretty good. Yeah. And then 16% for Far Cry 6. So there's a whole bunch of like the 3D Mark and stuff like that, but that's not real world
synthetic stuff.
Right. But I mean, still, significant change from old to new. Of course, ideally that would have been there from the beginning. People wouldn't have been, complaining and yelling and screaming and so forth and confused like I guess we were, right? So
well, and I want to go back to what you said earlier. So they're saying that all that stuff is not going to affect Arrow Lake laptop.
Yeah, and in fact, I talked to Josh Newman about that, and I was just like, hey, is this good for the Core HX or is it bad? And he's like, no, we've done all the work. I don't think he gave me an ironclad guarantee that's not going to happen, but they had to basically do their homework, examine it very closely, so they're pretty sure that you're not going to get that in the Core HX, which is again they should have had that from the get-go.
Yeah, well, speaking of Intel, and this is not a new processor, but Lunar Lake, I know you've played around with it a little bit in the MSI Claw that was over the break.
Right.
They had it here alongside the new version of the 7-inch version that has the Lunar Lake. What are your thoughts on Lunar Lake so far? Because you haven't really messed with Arrow Lake
no,
much.
not at all.
Yeah.
So Lunar Lake to me is almost like a huge jump, right, from Meteor Lake and what we were expecting with the original MSI Claw, right? And so it's almost like a huge catch-up for me in terms of just performance and the overall gameplay experience, and just kind of at the point where, without nitpicking numbers and whatnot, it just felt like it finally kind of matched what I was expecting on the AMD side. And so that was a huge jump for me because it was very clear the original Claw was lagging behind, And so that's probably one of the things I enjoyed the most about that kind of jump. And the thing I learned about this whole trip in general was just that the MSI Claw 7-inch is probably the one to get. You know, when you think about it, you know, they added in
that
that second.
Hold on, Russ.
Yeah.
That is a bold move because
know.
I think everyone last year was like, nobody should get this device.
Right.
So
this new one.
Is it literally just the Lunar Lake part, or?
Yeah, it is. It's well, there's other big components to it. They basically fixed all the nitpicks I had about like the buttons and the controls. All of those that they carried over to the 8, they also went back and put in the new 7. And so my big stopping point with the 8 in particular, which was the only one I had reviewed before the show, was that there were two things I didn't like about it: the weight and the price. I thought it was too expensive and I thought it was too heavy. And the 7 is cheaper and lighter, and it's all those things that I was expecting. I'm not enough. Like, I don't want I'm not to the point where I'm thinking, oh, it has to be an 8-inch. Like 7 inches is fine for me. Like that's the kind of ideal for me, really, with a PC handheld. And so I came away from the show thinking, wow, you know, I never really thought about the fact that they just put the new guts in the 7 and then fix some of the stuff. But that's actually exactly what we needed.
Well, and by fix some of the stuff, we did take that briefing, and because the bumpers is one of the things that was like, it was very squishy.
Yep.
They fixed that.
So they fixed the bumpers. They're more tactile, and you're able to hit them across the button. And then also the face buttons have been improved, a little bit bigger. Joysticks have got a better grip around the edges of the cap, and then also the D-pad has been just got a bigger kind of disc to it. Like it's got a little bit more depth to it. So
what a weird story, right?
Yeah.
Like going from last year, not quite this time last year, but last year. Oh no, they did debut it at CES. Yeah.
They did.
All of a sudden, and people were excited about it because they were like, "Oof, Intel's finally here to take on the AMD dominance."
Yeah, right.
And it's just like, they went through some rough times, and now everyone seems to be like, "Yay!"
The last thing I expected was them to get on par and maybe even a little bit better within that short time period. You know,
I mean,
year.
I would call that another win for Intel, right?
Yeah.
Did they talk anything about any updates to Lunar Lake? Were there different SKUs that they were announced or anything?
Well, so we're talking about, you mean the Core H and the Core HX, or are you just talking about?
No, but Lunar Lake,
Lunar Lake,
did they talk about Lunar Lake at all? Any new models?
No, I mean we're
configurations?
we're basically moving on to Aero at this point in time. The interesting thing is the interesting thing was that, first of all, they showed off Panther Lake, which is interesting.
Like as a preview kind of thing?
Well, they actually had some systems apparently.
Really?
So, yeah. So
I missed this.
I did too, actually, because they, and we'll get maybe into it a little bit later on. I mean, they wanted us there for a significant amount of time, and at a certain point, you had to say, look, I have to move on and see other things. So this was, I guess, sort of a reward for people who stuck around for a long, long time, because by the next day they were gone.
Huh.
So I'm not sure exactly if you were able to play around with them, or I'm sure you could do benchmarks, or just what you could see in like the system monitor, or in Windows and so forth. So there was that. The thing I found was interesting too is that they also started showing a little about performance of Core HX, and I wasn't walking in there expecting too much, and I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I mean, the thing, and some of that's in the story that I originally wrote. I think there's a slide that might not have been there, but I mean, they were comparing against to the AI 365, the AMD part, and they were comparing against. They're saying it was a tie at 1080p medium, which didn't fill me with a lot of enthusiasm. I'm not sure. I like to see at least 1080p high. You're probably no more knowledgeable about this than I am, but I mean that's usually what I expect as far as the spec. And so when you get down into sort of those lower image resolutions and so forth, it seems to be. I'm not sure.
Is it like what's the GPU configuration compared to like Lunar Lake?
I don't know the actual.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the GPU.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's probably 4080, 4090 because they're trying to show off the details of the CPU. But I honestly don't know if they had specs on it. It's one of those things where they would put it in the footnotes.
Okay, so you're not sorry, you're not talking about integrated graphics. You're talking about.
No, I'm talking about just the Core HX CPU performance by
itself.
in terms of gaming.
Okay, so they were benchmarking at those lower resolution, lower res,
right?
To obviously take out any GPU bottleneck.
I would think so.
Sorry,
I don't know.
I'm confused. I'm tired.
No, I wasn't sure of the GPU configuration. They did on the desktop. They did show a couple of new chipsets though, which will be in motherboards.
Oh yeah,
so those are
lower end ones for sure.
Just I mean the H810 and the B860 and the. 810 is the $99, starts a motherboard, and the the B860 is the $129. So I don't know if you guys. I mean, you were wandering around at the board vendors. Did you see any of those boards out there? I'm not sure if they were actually there or not.
I mean, not really. Like, I guess I wasn't honestly
attention.
paying
Yeah.
attention. So like it wasn't like a highlight.
Yeah, nor
I'm
do
sure
say
they
when
were there.
Yeah, nor do
but-
they say when exactly they're going to be out.
No, you asked, and nobody took us to them. You asked, like, do you have any?
Boards to show off.
Specifically asked
Or
for
do-
anything new.
Yeah. You have anything new on the desktop? But well, I mean, and did Intel have? Was that the only new desktop related kind of thing?
That was pretty much it. I think they had a few of the non-K, which I don't actually have written down. They had a few.
Oh,
of the non,
you're
non-
right.
yeah,
Like lower end of the
Yeah.
stack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I forgot
right.
about that.
Yeah. So they did have those, and in fact, if I remember correctly, they're going to have a bunch of those by the end of the quarter. I just don't remember exactly what they were specifically or what they're priced. Again, I think that's in the story. The thing of it is that maybe I'll just mention this now. So, you know, in situations like these, you know, companies want you to be in front of them, and when you're in front of them, you tend to write about them. And then certain companies will play by the rules, and some companies weren't. The one thing that you know, like AMD did, is they kind of stuck to their 45-minute keynote, and as we'll talk about in a second, they introduced a ton of stuff, right? Just tons and tons of stuff, and they had to leave out some stuff, right? Because they didn't have it. You know, NVIDIA goes and has Jensen's keynote, and then it has a press conference, and then it has some additional information, and then Intel wanted us in front of them for a few hours as well, whereas, you know, other people said, you know, we got to go, guys. So, you know, when that situation happens, you know, it kind of forces you to make a decision. Do you stick with them and listen to what they have in the hopes that there's something interesting, or do you say, hey, look, man, you've had your time, you got to go ahead and cram it, you know, condense it to a point where you can use? So, you know,
I mean,
Yeah.
and not to mention, I mean, trade shows, even in the best of times, are always
Right.
that juggling act,
Yeah.
and then add on top of that the fact that at the last minute, you know, Brad got. I'm not blaming
Yeah,
Brad
no.
for our worry, you know what I mean? But it's like we did have to shuffle
but I
around
mean,
a lot of
people
stuff.
were leaving
Yeah.
during Intel's keynote because they had to get over to AMD, and you know,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
you know, that's reasonable.
Well, I'm saying like actually we are lucky that we have a team and we can
Right.
divide and conquer. Like
Yeah.
we barely went to some of the same like things,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? So we
Yeah.
were able to divide and conquer, and
Yeah.
and Brad having another person always
Right.
you know.
So I mean,
Makes
you
sense,
know,
but-
Intel's information was useful. It's just the fact that we had to make a decision on, okay, do we stick and listen to this, or do we go on to other things?
So you ended up going to AMD then?
No, actually, I watched it
Oh,
on
you did.
stream. But the thing
Oh.
of it is that even though it was done, I had to move on to other things. I
Oh,
mean, you know,
yeah.
there's only so much time, so that was a little bit unfortunate. But to their credit, you know, Intel obviously had a number of things to talk about. It's just the fact that I think that maybe they could have managed their time just a little bit better. If we're going to be criticizing.
Okay,
So,
well,
yeah.
talk about managing time, like you mentioned. AMD's keynote was a very
Yeah,
dense
yeah.
managed time slot of 45 minutes. I tell you the truth, I don't know where to start. So I'm going to start with the X3D parts.
Okay.
There was a lot of rumors, or a lot of not rumors. I don't think there was rumors. I saw a lot of chatter being like, "Oh yeah, they're finally 9000 X3D, the 2 CCDs with Vcache, right? Here we go, baby."
Yep, that's it.
And this whole time, AMD has said, it doesn't really make sense. And even I was like, I don't think so, guys. And yeah, no, they didn't. It is exactly what you expect. They have the 9900 X3D and the 9950 X3D.
Yep.
One is 6-core, one is 8-core, or 2 CCDs, 6-core and 8-core
Yeah.
each, and only 3D Vcache on one.
Right. Yeah.
So-
So total of 16 cores, 12
Yep.
cores. Yeah. But I mean, the story for I think a lot of people on that is just the fact that you can't buy one, you can't find one. You know, I mean, they launched it. It's a great part, kicked ass.
The
Sold
9800
out.
X3D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah, kicked ass, sold out. And these are actually, you know, higher up in the top of the stack, right? They're the more rarefied parts. So
Yeah.
my question was like, okay, is that good for supply? And it sounds like it's not going to have too much of an effect on it because, according to like David McAfee, people tend to buy the cheaper, more reasonable parts that people can afford, right? You know, and these, which we don't know the prices on these additional ones. They haven't disclosed those.
Oh, they haven't yet.
No.
I
No,
guess
they
so, yeah.
haven't yet. And I was trying to get people to tell me about what they were. I mean, obviously they're going to be more, but we don't know how much more. But people tend to buy the cheap stuff. So he was basically AMD was telling us that they basically just miscalled it, right? They basically said, and the quote we can go back to, which Brad loves, and I thought was a great one too. This is by Frank Azor, and he's basically said that we know we had a great part, we didn't know the competitor had such a horrible part.
Oh, you're referring to Radeon GPUs.
Sorry,
yeah.
No, I'm referring. Actually, was he talking?
Oh no, you're talking about the 9800 X3D. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, anyways, basically, they didn't count upon the fact that Arrow Lake was going to be such a poor part comparatively, and so everybody just bought up the X3D like crazy. They didn't allow for enough supply, and they're trying to rectify that. But it takes more than a quarter to do that because it takes you have to get wafers in, wafers out. So
you got allotment.
Yes,
or allocate.
Yeah. What they're trying to do is the message here is that they're trying to fix it. They're trying to allow people to buy it, but they're also saying, hey, look, the X3D is just the best gaming part of the planet, and it's kind of hard to argue with it. So
right, and I mean, obviously, at the higher end core counts, like you're talking about gaming for sure, but then the ability to then do really crazy content creation. So for me, and I think both Gordon and I were on the page of when the 7950 X3D came out. That was like the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
That's what we had called it at the time, and this just makes it better.
Yeah, I mean, it kicks butt in both productivity applications as well as games. And then if you want a mobile part of it, they have the fire range part, which brings it back down. It's getting there. This is the HX3D. Brings it down in the mobile space, and there's a couple of I mean, they've got the the HX3D, which is basically has 144 megs of cache, but it's essentially the same 1632, 5.1 gigahertz. And then you got the HX part. No 3D, which is basically just less cache, but still, I mean, again, for mobile gaming, the story there too was like, and this, was talking to them and basically said, well, these are great, but we didn't have too many gaming notebooks in the past, which is really AMD's. AMD has this problem all the time, unfortunately, is that these, Intel gets out its marketing machine, and these guys just go with Intel. And even though AMD might be a better part, so they're just like, yeah, we're going to try to do better. We're just going to say, look, this is the best thing on the planet. Buy it. And
you're right. I guess like 3D Vcache had made such a huge splash on the desktop, but it hasn't really, because honestly, I almost forgot that it'd come out on mobile.
Yeah.
Because I was surprised there was not like a huge like, hey, this is awesome.
Yeah, so we'd like to see more of that from the various vendors, and hopefully we will. Well,
speaking of mobile gaming, we did see some mobile gaming processors talked about. There's a lot to talk about. I want to start with Strix Halo.
Okay.
First off, because I'm looking at you, Russ. Yeah. For audio listeners, the Strix Halo, I feel like the narrative for the past number of months for around the handheld gaming community is like, oh, wait for Strix Halo, wait for Strix Halo. Strix Halo's here, and it is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that GPU bandwidth is crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
But nothing in the handheld. And actually, I have an interview with Frank Azor that I haven't posted yet, but I did ask him about Strix Halo and handhelds. So
the size of that die, man, my goodness.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know, man. That's like I can't remember the TDP of that part, but he's like, I don't know. That's a crazy handheld. So I'm not quite sure. Did you remember why the handheld community was so certain that Strix Halo was going to come to handhelds?
It all really comes down to Kerry, the Fox. He's been pushing
that
this for a long
guy.
time. Yeah,
that guy.
So his big push has been that this could essentially be an Xbox Series S handheld, right? And the amount of GPU bandwidth is very similar, and so that's kind of his big push, is to wait to see if we can get those type of processing effects with a mobile GPU, and I think we are seeing it. I mean, I've been testing the Asus Flow, the Z13 for a while now.
Not a handheld.
It's not a handheld, but you can hold it in your hand.
Yeah, tablet.
Right.
Gaming tablet.
The implications of that in particular, with a smaller form factor, are really interesting. I just don't know power management wise how low can we take it and still get good performance? That's what we really have to look at.
That top end part consumes a lot of power.
Yeah. Well, but then also we saw the HP mini PC.
Yeah, that 3 liters desktop.
Yeah, what was the name of it? Do you remember the name of it?
Yeah, it's a bunch
that
of
thing.
gobbledygook.
That thing
looks cool.
Really nice looking.
It does. Yeah.
Like, and I know you love mini PCs.
I do.
Yeah. Like, are you excited about that?
Yeah, I think that It's funny because we didn't have enough time with Strix Point. Like it's just kind of jumping right into the next one, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's been what, a month since I did Strix Point reviews, and all of a sudden we're already moving on to the next thing. It's hard to keep up sometimes, you know. I am very excited for Strix Halo. Strix Point on its own was actually really impressive, but it's being eclipsed, if you ask me, at this point, which is kind of crazy.
Michael Kreider from PCWorld is in the chat, and he helps us out. It says Z2 G1A Mini is the HP desktop.
Yeah. So. And both Mike Kreider and Will Smith, I mean, did a great job from the home team. Just
Oh
explaining
yes.
all these things.
Oh man.
Sort of supplementary videos.
Yeah, you are completely right. I'm remiss to not bring up the fact that Will got with Mike Kreider and did our usual watch parties.
Yeah,
if you want to go back and watch the keynotes and hear what they had to say, and then later we'll talk about it. But Will and Brad Shoemaker from Nextlander fame did a watch party of the NVIDIA stuff. Also, I realized in my tired stupor that I did not introduce who's controlling the verticals and horizontals. On the back end, we have the most tired person of all, probably, and that is one Willis Lai. Hello, Willis. Oh yes. Yeah, not yet. We'll get to it. Thank you. He's doing the work. We're just sitting here, BS, and he's actually doing work over there. Willis, I missed you. We haven't been working. We haven't seen each other. Yeah. Dan's been hanging out. He's not the same.
It's not the same.
Just kidding. No, it's good. And then Alex is over here too. This is actually Alex's room. He's probably standing over there, just being like, "Man, I can't wait to get these guys out of my room. We're stinking up the place." Anyway, Strix Halo. But then the other handheld processors, Z2. Oh, wait.
No, actually, I just want to. I mean, Strix Halo is interesting because of the fact that it's just massive GPU plus NPU. I mean, it just seems. I was really impressed with the fact that, you can run. It's like this AI development workstation-y thing that has like a lot of graphics horsepower. I mean, you can game on this. You can run. They're talking about if the kind of person who develops on it. I mean, I can't remember exactly what was it, 70 billion parameter LLM on that thing, and it runs it faster and at lower power than a 4080 or 4090. I mean, that's a lot.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's I thought that was. I mean, it's a really. I'm trying to figure out if that's going to be a niche product for them, or if it's going to be something like people just say, "Hey, look, it does AI." It does graphics. I want, 50 of them or something like that. Because there's nothing else like it in the industry. I mean, they've gone in a really interesting direction.
Yeah. It is amazing. The only issue, I can play games in ridiculous settings. We're talking Ragnarok at 1600p.
With
medium
integrated
settings.
graphics. These are
integrated graphics.
Yeah.
But battery life is,
Well, there's.
I mean,
We
this
don't talk about
is
these
kind of
things.
is a new product category. Like, actually,
It
where
is.
I'm most excited about, I
Yeah.
mean, the mini desktop, awesome. Where I'm most excited about is like this kind of like a Ryzen AI 300 kind of thing. Because
Right. It can fit in a clamshell.
where the Ryzen AI 300 it has a lot of power, a lot of CPU power. But I'm willing to trade CPU power for more grunt on the GPU side.
Right. Yep.
And then obviously the NPU goodness. So it's almost like a whole new product category that's just.
It is. I was just so impressed they could fit it in a clamshell in a tablet as well as a desktop. I mean, it's just. I was just like, is this the same chip? I mean, it just you don't normally don't see that. I mean, so
It's wild.
I get a lot of comments in my stuff. It's like, oh, at some point we won't need GPUs. This is the first time where I'm like, I'm not missing it right now.
Right? I mean, yeah. But so Z2, the rumors were correct. There's 3 Z2 chips, Z2 Go, Z2 Vanilla, I'm just calling it, that's not the official name, and then Z2 Extreme. Different configurations. I think there's a little bit of confusion around the actual architecture of each one of them. Will actually posted a video. Will Smith posted a video kind of breaking down the specifications of it, and I think they're all kind of they all have a spot. I can see why AMD is doing it, and I think it makes sense to use just prior graphics generations. Z2 Go is kind of something you can kind of equate to like a 680M, right?
Yep.
Where like the Z2 Vanilla is something around like the 780M. And then the Z2 Extreme is like what's in the Ryzen AI 300 now, which is the 980M?
890M.
Numbers. So many numbers. Which is there anything in that stack that you're most excited about for handhelds?
Yeah, I honestly, for me, it's the price point that they're able to drive down with the 680M. You know, that Go S basically, like that Lenovo in particular. You know, like to hit something, because that in particular is about maybe 20% better than Steam Deck when you give it enough power.
Yeah.
Essentially, and so I can see that being pretty exciting, just not necessarily for us, right? Like in the terms of like hitting the bigger numbers or whatever, but that Best Buy purchase, somebody walking by and be like, oh, look at that one. You know what I mean? Because you can't get the Steam Deck in stores, but you're going to be able to get this Steam Deck in stores. And I think that's going to be somewhat revolutionary for the space, because it's going to bring more users into it. So it may not be the most effective chip, but it's the one that's going to be introductory. And so I like that aspect.
Well, and obviously the Steam Deck is kind of one of the cheapest, best options out there. That's one of the reasons why people like it, is like for what you're getting at the price you're getting it at, it's awesome. And the other handhelds up until now, you're paying a premium. A lot of times you're getting more. Yeah. But yeah, the Legion Go S, right? Yeah, is the first time where it's able to hit a lower price point in one configuration.
Right. Yeah. And it's the one I think that needs to be the entry-level one, like the SteamOS one that is actually console-like, as opposed to, trying to navigate Windows and turn it into a gaming console, which has always been a struggle, I think, in the handheld space. Like this one is actually just turn it on, log into Steam, and then just start downloading your games.
Go ahead.
If it were up to you, if you were the head of the Handheld Alliance and all the companies had to report to you, would you wipe Windows from the face of all the handhelds and just say everyone should just be using SteamOS?
No, I honestly think that a dual boot solution is probably the best thing, because I want to get to the point where I can use my handheld as also my Windows PC, right? Dock it into an eGPU or whatever. I don't want to have two accounts running and file transfers and that kind of stuff. I just want one thing that can do it all, and I'm going to need Windows if I'm going to be doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I legitimately think there is a reason to have Windows on a handheld. Sure, the experience is lesser than in a lot of ways, but there are still legitimate reasons to have it around.
Yeah.
So how do the Z2 parts shape up to Lunar Lake? I mean, can we say anything on paper at this point in time, or does it need to be tested?
Yeah, I'm kind of the wrong guy to ask, because I'm like I'm really about the experience,
Okay,
but I would equate
enough.
the Lunar Lake with that actual higher end, the 370, HX 370 and the AMD side. In terms of just the experience and the performance and whatnot, the FPS that I was getting and doing the testing between the Claw and then some of the other HX 370 devices that I have, not necessarily handhelds, but I got a laptop and things like that. About the same.
Okay.
When it just comes to my experience, and I'm sure even people in the comments probably can nitpick it, or not pinpoint it a little bit better than me. But for me, I'm all about am I enjoying this? Well, I am. And at what level am I enjoying this? So this is about that HX 370 level, the 890M, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Well, keeping on with AMD news or lack thereof, Radeon. So I think there was confusion out there because
there was anger, maybe frustration. Can we use those terms?
Whatever words you want to use, for sure. I think they were felt by different fans, but what happened was that the press got briefed ahead of time. RDNA 4, the new GPUs with the 9070 and the 9070 XT, reshuffle of the naming scheme, all this kind of stuff, and then on stage, what did we get, Keith?
Nothing.
Oh, like nothing at all. Like they didn't even say the words Radeon, or no.
We got what did we get? We got the.
I don't know. I didn't watch the stream.
Yeah,
I'm really asking you.
No, I listened to it and then had to go and read it to find out what I missed, because if they mentioned it, I missed it while listening to it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then people were excited about it.
I listened to it because I wanted to hear about it.
Yeah, sure. That's what everyone was hoping for.
Well, and so you talked to some people at AMD. Why did they end up bringing it up?
Okay, so again, it goes back to that 45-minute thing, right? So we only had a certain amount of time to go ahead and put it in there, and the fact that their feeling is that if they introduced it, they had to do a proper job of introducing it. And that proper job of introducing it would have taken a little bit too much time. Well, I shouldn't even say a little bit too much time. Basically, they felt like they would need 45 minutes at least just to talk about RDNA 4 and the Radeon GPUs themselves, which honestly isn't that far-fetched, right? Because, I mean, look at what NVIDIA did, right? The same sort of thing. So, I mean, they were very apologetic for it, but they're like, hey, what can we do? We had so many other things to talk about. And if we talked, I mean, we just,
which is true.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we had, we did what we could. We're obviously apologetic. We're going to obviously they're going to go ahead and dedicate some more time towards specifically GPUs, which of course they're going to later on. And I think it's before they said before the end of the quarter. So
Actually, Frank,
was it-
in my interview that I haven't
Oh.
posted yet, you'll have to watch it later. He actually I did pin him down for a little bit more
Oh.
of a
Yeah.
time frame. So no
teaser
spoilers.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's right.
But yeah, I mean, and that's what Frank said in the video
Mhm.
too. That hey, we think that this news can stand on its own, which I would tend to agree. I actually, to part of me, I'm surprised that NVIDIA even did it here at CES, because NVIDIA could have done it any time of the year. It didn't have to be at CES.
That's true.
So like, sometimes I do prefer when things are just isolated, because we're here in the mix of CES, and
Right.
just craziness, and trying to cover a ton of things, and so you can't get to everything. And sometimes, anyway,
It's still a great position to be in, right? That they have too much to talk about.
That's true.
Yeah.
that's right.
So much work. Like, I'd rather them do that than have something they're stretching
and
out.
people
what they
cared.
have.
I mean, people are legitimately
Yeah.
excited
Right.
to hear. So
Mhm.
the anger is because
Do you
byproduct.
think it played in their favor by not? Do you think people are talking about it more because it's not as present as they would be if it had shown? Because in the past they've done, just like a teaser. I mean, there's been times where they've launched a new card where all they did was throw it up on the screen and say, "Hey, we'll talk about that later. Stay tuned. It's coming." Or show like a game clip and go, "This is running on our next generation," and that's all they say about it. And this time they didn't talk about it, but it was in like every follow up. Like if you look up every article, there was that picture with like all the different varieties. And even when we were touring, like right after the keynote, we came across them in the booth and was like, "Hey,
Just
what
sitting
can you
there.
tell us?" Like,
Yeah.
we went past other things to try and get more information. And
You're right. People went digging. They were sleuthing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Do you-
for sure. So
Yeah.
to a certain
Yeah.
degree.
You can't pick apart what's not there.
Yeah, it's
And also, I mean, it's not my decision, obviously, but like, if I would I, as AMD, want to come out and get directly compared to what NVIDIA is going to come out?
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Yep.
like, I
Yep.
mean, in my world, RDNA 4 wouldn't have even been mentioned at all at this point. So not even press briefings, anything like
Mhm.
that.
kept it off the shelf.
Yeah,
Just like-
yeah. But they did want to show it. They do have
Yeah.
parts. They actually had it running at the booth, so
We played on it.
Yeah.
They wanted to show it.
I mean,
I
they-
didn't even realize I played it. I was playing a demo and looked over and realized it was, that's one of the new cards. And
How
it's
many frame
one-
rates do you get?
I unlike other people, did not think to go and run the benchmark. I was distracted. I was distracted by the most bizarre monitor ever, and so were you.
Oh, actually. Oh, wait. It was
Yes.
in that?
Oh, that one.
See?
Well, then I played it too. Then.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. See, and again, with the not really talking, like there we were. We all played with it, and it
Right.
was running fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention to
Yeah.
frame rates,
Mm.
but again, it was just it seems real bizarre.
Yeah.
Like-
I mean, we are, and for the performance stuff, obviously, we've seen people benchmark it.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
stuff. Come on. Like, these are not final drivers.
No.
I actually did ask Frank,
Yep.
can we expect better or worse performance?
Well, they basically were like, "Hey, if you see any numbers out there on the internet, they are wrong, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't have their final production driver, blah blah blah, and so forth." So that's,
And so I
that's
asked,
fair.
wrong because they're slower or faster?
But I mean, they were pinched by the holidays, right? So Intel had its battle mage. That's going to be probably on the low end.
Yeah.
And so where is AMD going to fit in with all the crush of people leading up to going on vacation and so forth? I mean, it's a tough spot for them to be in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I 100%. It can be its own thing. Let it breathe.
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
worried about it.
But they could
Yeah.
have had Galaxy Impact for AMD too, which they eventually they probably will, something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing something else from AMD. Was I-
They had the 200 and the 300 series. Some additional parts there.
Oh, yeah.
200 series basically kind of coincides with what Qualcomm's
Laptop
doing,
parts,
right?
yeah.
So the 200 series is low end, right? And the Qualcomm announced just the Snapdragon Basic, the X, I guess it was. Let's see.
Snapdragon Basic.
Yeah. Which is
Going back to basics.
I gotta check my notes on that one because I just forgot exactly what it was.
Is it like
Oh, that's right. It was Snapdragon X, yeah. For some reason I just blanked to that.
E.
Well, the whole point is that here's
Sorry,
the thing.
the CPU
Well,
names.
the thing is that with Snapdragon, right? So the numbers came out in Q4 about their Q3 performance, and it was lousy, right? So under 1% market share. I mean, unit sales in the hundreds of thousands, not nothing breaking a million. We haven't seen fourth quarter numbers or estimates come out yet, but the idea is that they have a tons of design wins. They have that's a bunch, 30 or so, right? But they just don't have the volume to back it up. So they've got to do it and pack that somehow. So they need to introduce a cheaper part for cheaper PCs, and they're doing some many small form factor desktops. And Lenovo had one, for example.
Oh,
yeah,
you did see that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Well, that was a Think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just small like
Think
Chromebox,
line.
basically
Yeah, yeah.
Chromebox, and they have to basically improve their market share, which makes sense. I mean, they're good parts, and in fact, I carried a Snapdragon based Microsoft Surface laptop throughout the entirety of the show. Had no compatibility issues with it whatsoever. The performance was fine. The battery life was outstanding. From that standpoint, I was extremely impressed with it. I brought Lunar Lake as a backup and never actually opened the laptop throughout the entire show. Just did everything I could that needed it to. So, again, I'm not running games on it or anything of that sort, but from a productivity standpoint, just absolutely perfect. So both the Snapdragon X as well as the 200 series, again, just increasing volume. That's all it was. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then I guess let's move on to the third act. Later in the evening was the NVIDIA keynote. Who watched it? I did not actually watch it.
Nor I.
Did anybody watch?
had other
Yeah.
things to
I let Copilot summarize.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
really?
Yeah.
pushed
Honestly,
that
that's
little
great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wait, was it powered by an NPU?
No, it was not the Copilot.
Okay.
just about. That's
I,
smart.
I
Yeah.
was curious. I wanted
Yeah,
to try
I was
it out.
watching it on my phone, but I couldn't get
Yeah.
the full experience. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Guess what? 50 series is here.
Mhm.
I actually did a video with Paul earlier because I feel like, do you remember what everyone was talking about after the 4090 came out and it was a big chunkin card and everyone was like, what's the 5090 going to look like? Look how big that thing's going to be.
Betamax player.
Yeah, it's going to be twice the price and 4 times the size and all that kind of stuff. And then Jensen gets up there and is like, oh hey, boom, 5090 2-slot card. And guess what? $2,000. Which I'm going to talk about this when we get home. When I get a chance to talk to Brad, I don't know if anybody remembers, but somebody predicted what the price of the 5090 was going to be, and I wonder who got it right. It
I
was
think
me.
he documented it.
It
too,
was.
didn't he?
It could be somewhere on the internet. Somebody should find it, please. Yeah. So $2,000. And there was even like rumors and leaks that it was going to be $2,500 early on, and I almost feel like I do wonder. There's a part of me that wonders is because everyone was expecting $2,500 that they came out with $2,000. They're like, yeah, but actually, because I was like, oh well, it's $400 more for the Founders Edition, but I don't. I was expecting more hate. Be like,
Yeah.
well, now it's a $2,000 GPU. I can't believe this, but now everybody's like, oh yay, it's only $2,000. I don't know.
It's only 2,000 out of the box. I mean, how much power does it consume?
575. I think?
In California, your utility bills are going to
Well, so that's the other thing. Everyone was talking about. Okay, well, how much power is it going to consume?
Right.
Yeah, it is definitely consuming a lot of power. But but
Yeah.
what's the performance going to be? I heard it's going to be 4 times faster.
Holy smoke!
In certain workloads, I'm sure.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
certain
Right,
instances when the moons align. And
I heard you can get a 5070 that games
the
as fast
price.
as a 4090.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that true?
When the turbo is spooled up and
the moon
split
lines up
and
right?
the nitrous is kicked.
What
I'm
button?
sure-
What button do you push to get that turbo?
Turbo
I know.
button.
I think we all know, like, across the board that that's going to be not quite there.
Yeah.
There's going to be instances like you're going to be able to find instances where you go into a game and you can run it and it's like, oh wow, it is. And then, but most of the time it's not.
Because that verbiage was approved by lawyers.
Yes,
so
it was.
somewhere.
There's a lot of wiggle room in there.
Yeah.
and-
So yeah, which hey, I mean, cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we don't know much more than that. So.
Right.
The thing is, though, that 50-70 price point
You know,
is
I was
pretty interesting.
I was
Okay.
going to bring that up.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So even though, I called the 5090 price, I called the 5080 price.
Yeah.
I did not expect the 5070 Ti and the 5070 price to drop by $50. I don't think anybody expected that. So
I didn't expect the 5080 to come in where it did, but I know we're talking about the 5070. I was kind of pleased to see that. You know, just after
Yeah.
tracking the prices for
I mean,
years.
you seem pretty excited by the 5070, huh?
Yeah, like when I coming into this, I was like, I know these are going to be announced, and they're not for me. And now I'm thinking one of them may be for me.
Yeah,
you know, like
maybe.
that's
Sure.
that. If I'm thinking that way, then there's got to be other people, thousands of other people who are thinking along the same
I
lines
think
too.
that's a trigger point right there. Thousands
Yeah.
of people wanting one is going to be
Right.
possibly thousands of people waiting in line for one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which then
Yeah.
raises those prices to the point where I'm not paying for it.
Not
Yeah.
quite sure. Yeah.
Right.
So for the Founders Edition, they're coming out in the 5090, 5080, and the 5070. 5070 Ti is only with AIB partners, and
Mhm.
we saw a lot of
We
AIB
did.
cards. Yeah. In fact, we have videos on the internet
Yeah.
looking at some of these of these partners. Well, not all of them.
Oh,
Don't
well-
promise that.
all of them that we saw.
Yeah. We did a video. No, actually, that's not true. We didn't do a video on all of them, Lucia.
I did.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh,
I don't know where it's
oh,
at
yeah,
yet, but,
it's somewhere in your camera. Anyway, there is a lot of AIB cards, a lot of questions, a lot of cool designs.
Mhm.
Like just looking at them, there's a lot of redesigns. People getting
Mhm.
ready for, like this big launch. I definitely think this is going to be a big launch. Also, a lot of people being like, oh well, if I can get a 5090 in 2 slot, why would I get a 5090 in 4 slot? We saw the Asus Astral 5090
Oh my
with
goodness.
four fans on
Did
it.
you pick it up?
Yes, I did. Yeah, there's a video coming out.
There's a reason I had you open those M&Ms earlier. I tried to pick it up.
Oh, yeah. You broke your hand.
It
Yeah.
almost fell down.
But once again, sorry, I'm not trying to just tease all the videos, but I did a video with Paul about this kind of stuff, and we were theorizing. Do you remember back in the Founders Edition, early Founders Edition
Mhm.
days? The card came out, but it wasn't the best of the best, right? There was
Yeah.
still room for improvement with AIBs, and then slowly over time, leading up to like the 4090, if you got a 4090 Founders or a 4090 AIB, performance was almost nil. You're pretty much talking about aesthetics and temperatures,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I do wonder, can this 2-slot card keep cool?
Yeah.
Because maybe there could be a reason now.
Alright.
Now maybe Nvidia is actually going
Yeah.
back and saying, hey, you know what, AIB partners, we got something cool for sure,
Mhm.
but you
Yeah.
now have an opportunity to do different designs,
Yep.
get
Mhm.
actually better performance and better cooling from it. So I
I
don't know. I'm curious.
I was giving that some consideration today when I finally got to go see that monster that we were looking at, or you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I sat there and it kind of dawned on me. I was like, because I got excited about all the different 2-slot cards.
Yeah,
Because I
me
thought
too.
that maybe the Founders Edition was going to be the only one, but I know Gigabyte's got 2-slot 5090s, and
Well, I mean, we saw a lot of like SFF rated.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
what I like to see.
yeah,
Yeah,
me
and,
too.
and
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
first saw them, we were like, wait, this is a 5090?
Yeah, I was like, why is there so many SFF rated like cards?
But we're talking about, again, a 575 watt card.
Yeah.
And we know the way the algorithms that dictate the speed of the GPUs, thermals, acoustics, all of the works. And, it takes me back kind of the 2080 Ti days where, like, the Founders Edition looked great. There was, like, a thermal limit. And then once you got to these bigger aftermarket cards, like you said, they were able to run cooler, boost higher, sustain longer clock speeds, and you were getting substantial performance increase, measurable, so that people still wanted the Founders Edition because it looked really good.
For sure.
But if you wanted to go all out and really unleash it,
Were you finding any cards like that when you were looking around at the show?
The big ones?
Well, I'm just saying, were there any particular cards from the third-party vendors that you'd call out as saying, hey, these guys are really pushing the limits as far as what they can do?
The Supreme.
I mean, the Astral,
yeah.
there was definitely like top end cards.
The Oris ones.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. But I mean, but that's without benchmarking.
No, I understand that. But I mean, what were they promising?
Nothing.
Nothing. Oh,
Nothing.
okay.
Yeah.
They were
They were
said
just
less.
saying,
Yeah.
hey,
They
it's
said,
okay.
I have if you watch the video where I looked at the MSI cards or the Gigabyte cards, my joke this whole week has been like, those are some of the crappiest videos I've ever made, because it was just like, hey, I can't talk about anything. Price, performance, availability,
Clock speed.
literally nothing. So
Right,
we're
right,
just
right.
here to look at how pretty they are.
Oh, they're colors.
What was amazing to me was that even the third-party manufacturers didn't really know what was going on with them either. They'd be like, our name's on it.
Yeah.
That's about all we know.
That was
at this point. Yeah.
They were even iffy if like, I don't know if you can touch them yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
they were like sliding
I
around
did
on the
touch
stand.
them.
Yeah.
All of them that he saw.
Actually,
Right.
no. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I don't know. Whatever. Technicality.
Most all. I'll put most
Asterisk.
in there. Yeah. More asterisk than a 5070.
Yeah. And once again, the 5070 Ti is going to be AIB only, so it's a moot point there. No mention of 5060. So I'm curious about the lower end.
Yep.
But that 5070, that is it's a newer design, but it's not as new. Or I'm sorry, the Founders Edition 5070 is a newer design, but it's not as new as what went on into the 5080 and
more
the 5090.
of a traditional.
Yeah. More like the 40 series.
Yeah.
So it's like a flow through design.
Can I say that I had anticipation of the 5090, maybe the 5080. I did not have a 5070 on my radar. Like,
I didn't think they would go with 4 at this launch.
when I saw him when he started talking about the when he mentioned the 5070, I was like, wait, really? We're going there already?
Sounds like they got things lined up in the fabs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah.
Hey Keith, when are these going to be available?
I don't know.
Hey Keith, what's the price going to be on these?
Well,
we know the Founders.
yeah,
I guess.
the
Well, the
Founders.
AIB cards.
I don't know.
What's the performance? Okay.
I know about as much of these as we do about those 9070s.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, then, just our theory guessing over
Okay.
here. What do you expect traditional raster performance to be? Because we know the numbers they gave us, but that's obviously, it's very
All right,
highly specific numbers.
Okay, we can put this down. If you want to jot it down, save it. We can
Sure.
pull it back out of that.
No, the internet never remembers.
So I predict 5070 is going to be about 10% over his 4070 Ti, or 4070 Ti Super, about 10%.
Okay.
I think the 5070 Ti is going to hit up against a not faster than, but hit up against a 4080.
Super.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be with the 4080, like the vanilla 4080 non-super. I think you'll be right around that mark. I think you're gonna find that some instances it'll be a little faster, some it'll be a little slower. I think the 5080 is gonna stay 10 to 15% above the 4090, and I think that the biggest problem you're gonna see with the 5090 is we're not gonna know how fast it is until the CPUs get faster.
Valid point.
I think that
Yep.
a lot of these numbers
Yep.
that are going to come out, and when the card launches,
Yep.
it's gonna look like
You think it's going to be that fast?
I think it's going to be 25, 30% faster than a 4090. In good scenarios, in pure raster, no trickery, no turbo boost, no nothing extra.
It's
going
not
on.
trickery. It's just
I
different
know,
scenarios.
but no extras.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
raw raster. I think it's going to be limited, even at 4K. I think it's going to be CPU bound to a degree because there's so much there.
Well,
It's a fat bus.
I mean, the 4090 was
Yeah.
already still, for the past number of
Yeah, that's
years,
right.
like the fastest GPU and more than most people needed.
I'm just-
So, yeah.
That's my stance. You write that down, and I'll come back to
Yeah.
it.
But we were talking about that offline. I mean, how do you benchmark, a CPU without the fastest GPU available, and vice versa. I mean, like we were thinking about, there's going to be horse trading going on because I mean, you're going to have to benchmark the first CPUs against what you got, and that might just be a 4090 and not a 5090 at that point in time. So do you take what you get and then rerun them, or I mean, it's just going to be it's going to be a little bit of,
I expect availability to be pretty tight.
yeah.
I have no insider
the benchmark?
information.
No, I know,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the
but-
real
right.
benchmark.
Yeah. That's right.
Because
Yep.
you know, like I feel like these things are gonna fly off shelves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
It'll
Yeah,
be
agreed.
interesting to watch the Steam charts, especially on those 70 series.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
because
who-
that's obviously the sweeter. Well, what do you think is the sweeter spot? 5070 or 5070 Ti? With that pricing, obviously we don't know performance.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to a lot of what the AIB cards look like when it comes to those, because those, what does a MSRP for a 5070 Ti look like?
Mm-hmm.
You know, versus a souped up 5070. It's like we don't know, again, performance. We don't know a lot of the details in there, and of course, you know, like my performance predictions are pure speculation and napkin math, and
But the internet's gonna hold you to it.
that's fine. That's fine, and then I can be like, I was accurate because I'm right, and I know I am. So, but I think the non TI is going to be, I think a lot of like what'll happen in that price bracket is. People are saving up. Like they're still in that market where they don't have quite the absurd disposable level of income, so they're saving up, and then when they get to that point where they have the 570 money, they go, it's enough. This will be good. I'll just,
It's a lot of power.
you know, like, do I really want to wait 2-3 more pay periods? Because I mean, look, I say that because I'm in that band.
Will there be
Yeah.
finance options?
Man, you should.
Layaway.
Exactly. You can be lining up at midnight. I guess
I
probably
could-
will be.
I could
Yeah.
never encourage anyone to finance a computer component unless it's making them money.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which I mean, plenty of people are getting money. You know,
That-
making
yes,
money off
but-
of it.
I wonder if you could like finance one and then sell it and then pay off the. No, I don't want to give any like scalpers.
I was like, wait, but then
I know.
what are you
We're just
left
getting the
with?
scalpers.
Yeah, no, you get a scalper
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
We are not condoning scalping.
no, not
No,
at all.
we're
Not here
But-
on the Full Nerd.
Mm-mm.
But I feel like that 70, the vanilla 70, is going to be the real go for.
Yeah, I mean, if you take me as the scenario, right? So I'm living in my little small GPU bubble, mostly mobile, but still, like I have interest.
We should
in
get you out of that bubbles at some point.
I'm
It's got
afraid
probably
to get
stuffy
into
in
it.
there.
It's something I don't want to open. But anyway, so I've never gotten a 40 series or anything, right? Because initially it came out and it's like I can't ever actually find the MSRP for it, and so I don't even know what this is worth. And then by the time it did kind of trickle down to the point where I could buy it, I'm like, there might be a new one coming out. Like, why should I buy it now, right? So I've just, I'm at a 3060 something or other in my computer, right? And so now I'm ready. And the 5070 vanilla, like, just seems to be like right there where it's like, it's not that much money and it's a big jump from where I'm at.
Mhm.
And so that's where I think there's a lot of people kind of in the same kind of, boat as me.
Yeah. Well, so that's the actual hardware, but they also talked about software. DLSS
Yes, right.
4,
Four.
the 4th iteration of DLSS is out, and AI is the hot talk, right? AIO. Mark, I know you had a good article asking companies about AI, the future of that for gaming.
Sure.
What do you think? Do you think AI truly is here to stay?
Well,
and it's the
if we're going to
future?
talk about articles, I think we need to talk about your question to Jensen. I mean, you stood up in front of. What's up?
Wait, what's going on over here?
He loved your AIAIO.
Yeah. Oh, McDonald.
now
Okay.
now we're getting dingy.
The chorus
Yeah.
hit you, huh?
Oh, that was.
You didn't see that one coming?
Imagine Jensen singing.
Yeah.
It hit the.
Sorry,
funny
I
bone.
I was looking over here and I kept hearing.
He's just gasping for air.
I was trying to be discreet about it.
No, but Adam sits up, stands up in front of the assembled press corps of the world's, technical community and asked Jensen Huang exactly about the of DLSS 4 and about the future of AI frames, and he asked him straight up. He says is the future of GPU, the future of video game rendering, and going to be entirely AI? And Jensen, he says no, he doesn't. Which is interesting.
Yeah, because when we had Tap on last year
right.
For the 5080 reveal, he was theory crafting and blowing my mind of,
right.
oh, yeah, maybe we never have any traditionally rendered frames. Maybe it's just all
exactly,
AI.
And Frank said that as well in our little round table.
Right,
yep,
yeah, and I can...
Yep.
And what I mean by that, it's not just the upscaling and the frame gen, it's also the image creation in real time, that kind of stuff.
It's looking forward.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so there are conflicting opinions here. Intel and AMD seem to think that could be a possible feature, where Jensen said no. He said no. We will always need a baseline, or I don't remember the exact word, but
basically, honestly, you think like a reference,
some
sort of reference.
Yeah, well, we will always need that underlying rastered frame, but we can do in the future more and more with it.
Right.
Or you can get more out of one traditional.
Yeah, he was pitching he was framing it in a way that sort of implied that we're always going to need actual artists. People who are designing, so they are actually creating that particular frame.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice politically correct way of just basically saying, hey, you just can't create this stuff out of thin air. You need to have something that can be used as a foundation.
I mean, there are AI games making themselves.
That's true. No, there are, but I think he's talking about for video games, especially when you're talking about image creation, you need to have some sort of commonality between what Keith is seeing on his screen and what I'm seeing on my screen, so we can at least have that same basic experience, which it makes sense to me. Yeah.
Are you excited about the future of AI, Russ?
I am. The purpose for me of AI is to take work
for
away.
PC gaming specifically.
Right. The purpose of AI for PC gaming is to take work away from the user, and I want to get to a point where not only does the AI machine know at the like what settings or whatever it can handle at that point, but even what scenes are going to be coming up or whatever, and like say for example a first-person game, right, or single-player game experience where they know the next scene coming up is going to be a little bit more intense, so they. Knowing however they're going to pull that from an FAQ or whatever it happens to be, and then they amp it up for you. Before you even get to that scene where it's going to require more power, they've already powered up in anticipation of that. That's where I want to get to with AI. Take the work out of it, give me the experience where I just don't even see it happening. That's where I want to be. And so I don't think we're there yet. Like I have a hard time kind of placing the three between, FSR 3 and DLSS 3 versus 4 and whatever all those things mean.
Right.
I want to get to the point where I don't even know, and I don't even care. That's what I want to be at.
Well, and I feel like us as handheld gamers are in a different spot with that, because I think we need to rely more on AI features to get the most out of a thermally limited design anyway.
Exactly.
Right, where I can understand where people sitting at home, they're like, dude, I got a tower with the most heavy metal stuff in there. I want to push it to the extreme and get as many traditionally rendered frames. So the reliance on AI is not as much. Like, I mean, I think Jensen was talking about like what the 5090 hitting like 4K 240 hertz. I mean, which is intense.
Yeah.
That's bigger bar better for sure.
Right.
But how many people are actually going to be doing that?
Yeah.
Like for the most part, you might not, if you're in the 5090 class card kind of ecosystem, you're probably not needing to rely that much on AI anyway.
Right.
I feel like it's for people who are,
Right.
You're trying to claw as much out of, no pun intended.
Right.
You're trying to get as much performance out of.
But how much time do we spend as handheld gamers reacting to what's happening on the screen, right? That we're going into the settings and going, well, this is not working. We now need to change the paradigm. I want AI to do that for me. Right.
On the fly.
Good point.
Make these changes for me.
Yeah,
preventative. So you're not even talking about the video game. You're talking about like it adapting, the actual hardware adapting to what's happening in the video game on the fly.
Yeah.
Okay. AI, man.
I'll be interested to see exactly what this does for the pace of monitor development too, because everything is stuck at 4K right now, and it's just increasing resolutions. I mean, we're just the only thing that I saw that sort of kind of broke. I mean, I know there's been 8K monitors before, but the only thing that kind of broke me out of that mold was it Acer 6K Thunderbolt 5, But I mean, you know how everyone's been talking about going to 8K, but nobody seems to be willing to make that jump. And part of it's the broadcast media, because nobody broadcasts. Hardly anyone broadcasts in 4K in the U.S. I mean, it's Netflix and like very much, but gaming could be the push into that space. But will it? I don't know. Yeah,
Mark, I think you forgot the 4090 was an 8K card.
Yeah,
well,
you didn't
technically,
see
yes.
that.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's like
yes.
and then
Right.
don't worry about it.
Right, but I mean, the 4090 now would be a more affordable 8K card as opposed
For
to
older
yeah,
games.
right,
yeah.
yeah, right.
I mean, but yeah, so it's frame rate, it's resolution, latency, obviously a big
Sure,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Reflex 2,
Yeah,
Yep.
was talked about to help increase or decrease latency,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. So interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff for sure. Once again, we'll
And Jensen was getting all sorts of interesting questions too. I mean, I wish I had taken. I recorded it and I just didn't look at the transcription that detailed. But I should have actually looked at it a little bit more. I mean, he was getting questions about like in a war between robots and humans, who's going to win. I think he actually he was favoring the humans. Building new headquarters in Taiwan, which he's pretty much said he was going to do. I mean, there's just a bunch of random stuff in there, and some of it was interesting, and some of it was like, what?
yeah, just to lay the groundwork in these Jensen Q&A sessions.
Everything is open. Yeah.
Yeah, it's open questions,
Right.
But like the minority of the people like us who are interested in the
Right,
PC game,
right.
a lot of it is either like financial kind of questions,
And
or,
in both
yeah.
Jensen press conferences I've seen recently too, the poor audio engineers just get crapped on because nothing is
I felt bad
to
for
his
that guy.
satisfaction. yeah, he got
But-
really raked over the coals. Yeah, so
Yeah. Anything else with NVIDIA? Okay, well let's move on to the other companies then. I know we're already going kind of long, but the rest of the news, we don't have to be comprehensive, but like I mean, we did see the major vendors, MSI, Asus, they had new laptops. All the companies out there were pushing these new 5090 power laptops with Arrow Lake processors. We saw lots of new monitors. I will say we did not see any Cam 2 motherboards, not a single one, which I was curious. I thought after seeing it at Computex last year, I thought we'd see maybe a little bit more, but nothing. So I might need to eat some paper or something next year, because I think I put a bet on something on that.
Ooh.
I mean, it's still early in the year.
You can't win
But
them
it's a bad sign. That's a bad sign.
You got the 59.
Yeah. You win some, you lose some. Yeah. And any major announcements that you were interested, Russ? I'm just gonna go down.
Yeah, so it's funny, it was an Asus booth, in particular, and after I was finished with, kind of going through all their spiel between, the different product lines, they made one mention. They said, and also, it'd be great with the eGPU, and I go, what eGPU? And so they have a new XG Mobile that they just kind of really quietly had just sitting in one little corner. I had to show
we
it to
couldn't
Adam.
find it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I was like, where?
Yeah, and so I'm a big fan of the eGPU idea, right? Again, kind of coinciding with a handheld, and this idea that we can have one single machine do everything. And this thing is a beast. I mean, it's we don't know any specs obviously, but it's 5090 mobile chip, or mobile
Yes.
GPU, but Thunderbolt 5,
Yep,
and that's the
Thunderbolt
really
5.
thing that really attracted me to it, because that kind of makes it somewhat future-proof, because we're not seeing a lot of Thunderbolt 5 devices yet, and so
I mean, you actually been doing Thunderbolt 5
exactly.
testing.
Yeah, I do a lot of doc testing. I'm in the process of just putting together probably a story. There are no Thunderbolt 5 notebooks here.
Right.
There's none.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had the spec out for a while. We've had the component out for a while, and people are just not buying into them. And I was trying to ask questions of various people as to why that was, and essentially that was why I was asking about the 8K stuff, because according to a couple of dock manufacturers, they just do not believe that 8K is going to be a possibility. So it's basically just 4K, and they're like, why? And Thunderbolt 4 does 4K just fine. So that was what they were thinking at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, I'm totally agree with you. And in fact, because Thunderbolt 3 did eGPU, Thunderbolt 4 kind of passed it over, and then Thunderbolt 5 brings it back again. But
I mean, at least at least it's future proof,
It is
right?
future-proof,
Like
absolutely,
it would be one thing if you had only Thunderbolt 4 on the GPU, and then your laptop has Thunderbolt 5, and you're like, okay, I don't get the benefit. But at least even if you have a Thunderbolt 5 eGPU and a Thunderbolt 4 laptop now,
Mhm.
you could in the future when if you get a new laptop that
Right.
Right, and I think that level of compatibility is something you don't really see with some of these manufacturers, right? They're just going to hit the latest, greatest. This is going to play on all the old handhelds as well, those that have USB 4, Thunderbolt 4, or whatever. And so I think that all of that is really exciting to me as well, because it's just it's a really broad range that they're hitting with that Thunderbolt 5, and so it makes me excited.
But it is a trade-off, because their previous eGPU solution was the XG Mobile, and it had a proprietary plug, and that actually offered way more.
Yeah. So I had the full
performance.
4 PCIe lanes. Nowadays, the Thunderbolt 5 is going to be limited for GPUs to 64 gigabit per second. So it's not going to be great. It's going to be, a little bit worse than Oculink, basically, but just plug and play, right? And so that's the benefit there. But absolutely a trade-off, right? But that's again, as a guy who's still in that 3060 bubble, like I can live with that. You know what I mean? And so it'll be very interesting. There's always going to be a trade-off in some way or another, but it's small. It's got translucent plastic, which as a retro guy, I love it.
Yeah. That was what got me. I was like, it was just sealed the deal.
The power supply inside of it, so it's going to be very mobile to
and
take
a
around.
much better kickstand,
right?
Too.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of that. That was definitely my highlight of the whole show.
Yeah, and actually, if you go over, I think on PCWorld.com, there's our best of show, which we'll talk about a little bit later. I have not added this. Oh no, we'll talk about it later. Yeah, we'll talk about it later. So anything else that stood out news wise for you, Russ?
No, that was a big one for me. Yeah.
Okay, Mark. Anything else that we haven't talked about yet that news wise that stood out for you?
Well, some of the stuff actually kind of plays into the like the best of show. So maybe we'll talk about that in a second. I mean, there's a couple of little news bits. I've been wondering, for example, we were always talking about AI, or at least AI was such a focus of it last year and the year before. But we don't really have too many AI applications running locally on the PC. So that was something that a couple of companies pulled out. So if you went to AMD's booth, they actually had a little section where they were showcasing various AI applications, and nothing really that you know about, or recognize necessarily, but they had some there. Qualcomm actually made a sort of brought everybody into this sort of small demonstration room where they're doing the same thing. Applications that run on the NPU for their own devices, which I think is important. I think if you are going to try to sell NPUs, you need something to run on them, and people need to have more awareness of what these applications really are. The struggle is to show whether they're in fact better than maybe competing applications, but also too there are sort of niche-y, things like not just video editing, but the ability to plug in guitars or synthetic guitars and use them on the PC. Anytime you use photo editing apps, you're obviously competing against Adobe or some of these other companies. So I think we're seeing sort of a push in that direction, which I think is good for the industry. I will say that most of the stuff that I saw, like if you went to sort of the after hours events, PepCom, Showstoppers, and so forth, I was very impressed with the fact that there was actually very little PC stuff there. I think at Showstoppers there was LG and there was maybe
HP had a booth there.
Right, yeah, HP. Yeah, I those things get kind of messed up in my mind because they're all the same. But there were very few PC vendors. And there was tons of consumer electronics vendors. There was like weird toothbrushes and robots and I don't know, frying pans or whatever it might be. This is the Consumer Electronics Show, and for a number of years it was a Consumer Electronics Show in sort of name only. There's a lot of PCs and trucks and stuff like that. This is a really going back to we don't cover the consumer electronics, but we have a substantial portion of our editorial folks that do. And man, they had a target-rich environment. There was just a lot of stuff to think about there.
Yeah. Speaking of the special project that Willis was working on over on Tech Hive.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, Willis has been working hard.
Electric sauce spoon was what I saw.
Electric.
Exactly. I have no idea how that works.
Oh yeah. Willis, do you want to come talk? No. Electric sauce spoon.
Salt. It fools your mouth and thinking it's salty. Yeah. So you don't actually eat the sodium; you just think you're eating the sodium.
It's it's like
the Matrix.
Yeah.
Right.
When they eat that steak, he's like, "Oh, this is so good."
Oh yeah.
Right.
Ignorance is bliss.
Tasty wheat.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Any other news? Sorry.
Not really. We've covered a lot of it.
Yeah. Keith, anything we haven't talked about yet, news-wise?
So, one of the things.
All right,
the
okay,
past-
let's move on. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Keith.
AIAIO. One of the things we've seen over the past few years, and I've covered it probably every CES I've been to, is the idea of modular PC cases. It's always a thing. There's everybody, well, not everybody, but like seemed like, especially last year, there was a ton of different like hyper modular cases. And when I went over to Corsair, they've got, the case I use at home is a 4000D. It's just a very basic standard case. I'm not a big frill case kind of person.
I think those are the ones we use for the test benches too.
Probably
at the office.
Yeah, very simple, solid. They get the job done. It's like almost like a tractor. But the new model, it's the frame 4000D. So they have like a base model, which is full functional case, and now they have upgraded versions of it depending on, do you want a different side panel with fans in the side panel? You remember we used to have fans in the side panels?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can get that now in there.
Mm-hmm.
You can get it like solid panel, glass panel.
You configure it on the website when
you
you
can
buy it,
you
or-
can configure it how you want it, or you can just buy it and then figure that out later if you want to change something later.
Can you build it later like Legos? Like buy it pieces and then you put it together?
You still got to buy the base.
Oh,
Then
okay.
you buy the extra pieces.
Oh, got it.
But the front.
Wait, so they're nickel and diming me every piece, and I need to buy now?
Unless you can figure out right now what you want. But they have like different front panels. They get the wooden front panels, mesh front panels, glass,
Good wood front
acrylic,
panel.
different motherboard trays. They even got acrylic motherboard trays where that you can make it. But the thing was, it was reasonably priced. The base was $95, so it wasn't like this boutique $200 starting point. They didn't get all the prices on like all of the little components, but what got me with it was it looked, the best way that I could describe it is once you started changing out parts, it still looked OEM. The pieces all looked like they belonged, and it didn't look like a hodgepodge or like there was we did this one thing to make it to where you could change it. It's like it's modular to a degree.
Which sets it apart from other modular cases you've seen in the past.
Well, the other ones try to make it to where you can change everything and anything, and then it never quite had a good finish.
Would you call it semi-modular then? Because it's not fully modular, it sounds like, right?
Well, yeah, it's like a power supply.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
mostly modular.
Mostly modular.
I'm using, they
Mainly
just, yeah.
modular.
Yeah.
But you're saying
Much more modular than most.
But it retains. Yeah.
There's a back of the box quote. Much more modular than most PCWorld.
So you're saying it retains some of that beauty though of like
Yeah,
having something that's crafted.
the fit and finish is there no matter
Yeah.
how you change it around.
Okay.
They even got like a screen you can put on, like a touch screen, like long 14-inch monitor. It was neat to look at. I'm not really sold on that idea, but like that was there. But there's a feature in it, and I told Adam about this. Like I probably got they didn't mention it much. I just found it and started messing with it. So when you do front panel fans, let's just use this for example. You can do 3 120 millimeter or 3 140 millimeter fans.
Sure.
They have all the mounting points. They're all just like zigzagged through there, right? Not on this one. It has an infinity rail. So like the right-hand
right.
side is just straight like adjustable screw holes.
Sure.
And then you undo the top, undo the bottom, and you slide it back and forth. And it's a rail that the other side
That
mounts
is nice.
to.
That
And
is nice.
It just, the whole thing without being a $200-300 case has a very elegant look to it.
Interesting.
So
Speaking of elegant cases, Skeet Sayer would like to bring up that MSI PC with the 13-inch touchscreen on the front. We saw that.
yeah, the XAI.
I'm going to believe you.
That's what it is.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun playing with that one.
Yeah, that was pretty. That was a showpiece. That's kind of the opposite of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like where this is like a high-end showpiece kind of thing, but it was super cool. Yeah.
To touch on that case, like I thought it was pretty functional especially if you gamed a lot and you had Discord, because the way it is, and you like to set your case on your desk. I don't, but whatever. If you set it to the
PC
right,
off floor.
it's on a stand. It's just not on the desk. but it's angled, that screen, and it's hard to like get it in pictures and everything, but the whole front is tilted. So if you have it to your right, you kind of, it's almost like a cockpit. If you have it to the left and it's facing the wall, you're SOL. But over here, it's
well, the MSI had a solution for that as well. They had a Project Zero X.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was nice because I've definitely run into that where it's like, oh, okay, well, my PC, the glass side panel's on one side, but I need to kind of put it on the left side of the desk, so I don't get to see it. And I know, Dan, you got that too, right? Where
Against the wall.
it's against the wall, yeah, so you don't even get to see it.
Project X
So
was
this
nice.
Project X, Project Zero X,
No.
just a concept. Not an actual retail thing, but it was interesting. It was super cool. It was kind of like a fish tank design, I guess.
Yeah.
But imagine if the glass was
It was
like three sides.
thin.
Yeah. It was nice. And the GPU was vertical. The motherboard was flat. The only thing that I had mentioned to them was like, man, if you got a CAM2 memory module in that motherboard, that would have sealed the deal. Just super clean, super sick. But yeah, you can put it theoretically everywhere you want. On the left, on the right, turn it around, anything you want. Yeah, that was super cool.
I do worry about those cables though. Having them all bunched in the back like that. How's that going to look in a real world scenario? But all
point.
PCs
It's
are like
like
that.
the Homer
Yeah,
Simpson
yeah.
meme. Looks great, and it's like tied up in the back.
yeah.
Friend of the show, Liquid Art did ask any new BTF components.
Yes,
Yes.
actually, they did have some new BTF components. I was hoping I had time to do like a roundup of like, hey, here's new backside connector stuff, because MSI was showing off that Project Zero X. Asus had new lower end motherboards with BTF, and different form factors.
Yes.
So yeah, nothing of super note.
But it's there.
Just more options.
Yeah.
Yeah, more options for sure. And I feel like it's definitely one of those things where it's like it's here to stay. It's not a flash in the pan. I think it's taking time to ramp up. Case manufacturers, a lot of them seem to be on board with all this kind of stuff.
The Frame 4000 had support for it.
Oh, did it have support for both? The BTF and Project Zero?
They weren't able to answer that fully,
okay.
but like the spacing looked.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, but just cool. More options. Yeah. Good question. Any other news? Well, I guess we're going to go to the best of the show. Before we do, I would like to point out that this episode is sponsored by Silverstone. They have an Alta D1 case. Speaking of cases, oh man, you weren't a Copytex. I feel like you really would have loved this case. Have you seen it? It's the one that looks like a foot locker.
Yes.
It looks like a locker, and like speaking of modularity, it's not only is it modular, like that thing like can fit some of the most heavy duty hardware. Like I put a Threadripper system in there with two 4090s, and it had room for days. I could have put two power supplies in there. It's got these modular cages. You can fit up to like I think 360 millimeter AIOs.
Enthusiast.
I mean, like this is like it is a pricey component, but it's like you get what you want. This is like made for workstation, and it's just the industrial design is awesome. Super cool case for sure. So go check it out. The Alta D1. Steve did a video on it at Computex. Actually, a good kind of coverage of the features there. So thank you for sponsoring this episode. Appreciate it. I'm going to drink some more beer before we get into the best of show, which actually I think just. So Keith, what was your best of show?
So I actually did a video on it.
Wait, I thought it was the case that you just talked about.
Well, that was there. Like absolute best though.
Yeah. Like for So sorry, I mentioned earlier. On PCWorld.com, we got a best of show.
Right.
Mark has something in there.
Mm-hmm.
I have been so busy, I haven't submitted it, so it'll get there. But it's like one of my favorite things because we get to see what each other
exactly
saw,
right. Yeah,
and there are some things that like we didn't even see. So
Nope.
like I'm really curious to see like what Mike and others like call them best of show.
Yeah, there's
kind
some
of
interesting
thing.
stuff
So,
there. Absolutely.
super fun. So yeah, if you had to call a best of show, Keith, what would it be?
So it was tough. Like that case was there. It was up there. But for me, CyberPower PC had the thing that got me like the most amped up.
Yeah. Please explain it.
So, and it's not what got me excited about it because it wasn't just one thing. It was like a series that they had. They had a bunch of new systems that they were showing, but they've got a partnership with Intel where they've got a line. You can get more than one case in setup, but it all has to have an Intel setup. So, however you feel about that. But it's their ProStreamer 2.0. Years ago, they had a ProStreamer 1.0. It was in a Fantex case, had multiple motherboards in it. Like, it was a streaming setup. So you had like your main system and then an ITX system with the capture card in it, but you still had to like double loop cables back, and you were running multiple systems.
Yeah, it was running off the same power supply. You had to power one on before you powered the other.
You were multi-boxing in a single box. But this setup, their ProStreamer 2.0, is working with, and this is where I get jumbled up with the words here because it's a mouthful. It's the Intel Thunderbolt 4 and 5 Thunderbolt Share. Yeah,
Oh, yes,
Thunderbolt Share.
right.
It uses Thunderbolt Share to use that one cable, and the license is the big key.
Yes, it is.
You get the license with the system
Right.
to utilize this, and you use the cable. You can use it on any other computer that has a Thunderbolt in. So Thunderbolt cable. The way they had it set up there was they had one of their systems and one of their laptops, and the laptop was the streaming system. So it was doing all the overlays and running OBS, and everything was running there, and they just ran a single cable over to it. They didn't have to do an HDMI to a capture card into the input and then running multiple layers. And they could even go backwards. Like they could take over this system from the streaming box.
So the idea is that you kind of simplify it. So instead of running HDMI, you're running a Thunderbolt.
Yes.
And instead of having a capture card that captures the HDMI, you can just plug into Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And you covered Thunderbolt Share, right?
Yeah, it was one of those technologies that sort of came and went, honestly, because, in Intel's defense, I think they had something proprietary and they wanted to make some money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the licensing issue is just kind of this weird way to approach it in a way.
I even looked, like afterwards, I was like, okay, I got really excited about that.
Yeah.
But what did I get, like, the hood pulled over?
It's supposed to come with laptops. It's supposed to come with devices. And like I said, it's not something I've seen advertised anywhere, really.
Yeah, and that's
Gordon actually did a video on it. He was super hot on Thunderbolt
It's
Share
neat,
for sure.
yeah. Although it's still kind of Intel clunky, you know what I mean?
I played with it.
I remember that when he told me, I was like, oh, this is not even a scenario that I would even expect, because they had demos and things we showed off. But this is a situation that's like, oh, could this be like the feature for it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I played with it. I did some local recording. So, I know like a lot of streaming products, people think about just streaming.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that love to record their gameplays. They do compilations. They do a lot of that stuff.
True. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I did ask, because I was like, well, what's the maximum? Because can you do 4K? And it's limited to 1440p 60 on just on the capture and the stream. But that's, if you're streaming or you're capturing footage to put up on social media or YouTube and stuff, you're going to get what you want, what you need out of that easily.
Yep.
And just that simple of a setup. So you change out your stream box, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You still got it in this system.
I mean, it makes me think, like, imagine if you could take the MSI Claw, plug in Thunderbolt into a laptop, and that's how you just easily get capture footage.
Yeah.
Because there's no dedicated HDMI out.
Right. There's none of that.
Yeah,
That'd be interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I started to see, like, once we got to talking about it and looking at all the different applications, I was like, and I had it even right before that. I was like, I haven't seen anything for like streamers this time. And then I saw that and I was like, oh, okay, now I'm getting wowed by streamer stuff other than like, oh, great, it's another light.
Yeah.
So this is a standalone app that you can purchase regardless of like. Oh no! So it's built into their system.
Yeah, it's the license that you get through the purchase of their system.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
So
so you buy a CyberPower PC.
It has to be with their Streamer 2.0 line, and it's not limited to one configuration.
Then you get the ability to plug in whatever you want to capture. And, okay, that's interesting. That is.
Yeah. So that was, like I said, those two things. I'm glad I got an opportunity to bring it up because those were the two
best
big
of show. Write something up, send it to Brad.
I'll do it.
Yeah, I need to
absolutely.
do it. Did you get a photo of it?
I did.
Okay, good.
You get a photo, Dan?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Russ, what was your best show?
So I already mentioned that XG Mobile, but one thing that I kind of struck me about the whole thing is that, this is my third CES now. So the first CES I went to, I remember thinking to myself, man, it'd be so cool if there were some handhelds here, right? And there's nothing, it was the same year, like the Steam Deck was just new and all that stuff. And then last year we had like the MSI Claw was there, the ROG Ally was out by then. So we started to see some, the Lenovo Legion Go was even out by then. This year is the year of the handhelds. Like there's just so much, and I didn't actually get to see all of them. There were so many, but one that really kind of struck me kind of came out of nowhere. I've been
The
hearing
Atari
about it
one.
Had to been. I'm waiting for it.
The Atari one. I mean, who was not waiting for the Atari handheld? Man, sorry, Russ, we stole your thunder.
Right, yeah,
I know
you
you're
totally
so
did.
excited for that one.
So going back to what I was talking about, so
Well, smooth.
so I've been really tepid, or what is the word here? I was not too interested in the Zotac Zone. Hearing about it, I'm hearing about it for a while. It released in China already. Had a big European market, but not necessarily in the U.S. Only in Micro Center, which obviously is not in Hawaii, where I'm from. But they have a Gen 2 coming out, and they invited me to come check out both. And I was really impressed with the hardware.
So the first one was at CE or Computex.
Right.
They already have a Gen 2 now.
Yeah, they're already working on a Gen 2.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's coming out soon. And that's going to have the HX370, so the 890M inside of it. And they had it running. They had Horizon Forbidden West running on it, or Forbidden West running on it. It's running well, but I was actually really impressed in just the overall build quality, the hardware. I didn't have high expectations. Anytime anyone enters into the handheld scene, they usually mess up quite a few things, right? Triggers, D-pad, something's going to be off, right? I was impressed. Even the Gen 1 actually felt pretty good. And the Gen 2 is really just a white version of it. Though I like white handhelds. I just like the clean look of them, and then also same hardware other than that internal chip is a lot better. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. I walked in, it was just this morning. I walked in, I wasn't expecting much, and I came away and went, wow, they leapfrogged a lot of the other companies who've been doing it for years, some of the smaller ones, and really impressed by that. So I'm actually pretty excited. And so that was probably the biggest surprise I had of the year, is I thought, here comes another handheld. I can just, they're going through the paces, I'm going through the paces, and I came in there, I was like, wow, this is actually good. So yeah.
See, other than the joke of the Atari, I thought you were going to go with SteamOS on the Legion Go S.
That is exciting, but
because I mean,
yeah.
like, obviously it's a Lenovo partnership with Valve,
right.
So I understand why Lenovo wanted to show it here, but Valve could have done it any time.
Right.
Like I'm surprised like Valve was like, okay, yeah, we'll do it at CES.
Yeah, the hardware itself, I guess, didn't really excite me too much, but the news of like the fact that they're going forward with it and they're making SteamOS available before even the launch of that one is pretty exciting for me. But
it wasn't your best show.
No, because it's really just a very, very official version of Bazite, which we've already been running over a while, and so it didn't quite make a leap like that Zotac did. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mark, best of show.
Yeah, well, we were asked for 1 to 3, and I had 2, so I submitted 2.
Oh, we could do more.
Absolutely, we can do
I did.
more.
Okay,
I
I
did
thought
too.
I thought it just
More
did.
content is
Well,
better.
I thought I thought you could only submit one.
No.
Maybe Brad lied to me.
No, he doesn't.
Well, I'm a bad writer, so he's like, I don't want to edit all that.
So I had 2. One was more of a productivity solution. One was more of an entertainment solution. So I'll give you the productivity one first. So that was a Lenovo machine. So first of all, that we had a Lenovo, and they stripped off the trackpad or the track point from one of their offerings. Yep.
Is it even a thick pad if
I
it
know,
doesn't have
right?
the
If it
nub?
doesn't have the little pointing nub right in the middle of it, which that was not that was the Aura edition. That was not my best of show. The best of show was their ThinkBook rollable, and we have a number of different solutions for increasing productivity on the road. And I'm a person that just I have since probably I review the Thunderbolt docs, right? I use a laptop on my desk. I use 2 additional monitors. I really love the way that they're set up. I have my windows set up in a certain way so I can go ahead and check Slack and email and the web and so forth. And when I'm on the road, I can't reproduce that. So I've been the case where I've brought like external. I have an external monitor that I was shipped for, for evaluation. That has like this. It folds out, so it gives you 2 additional screens on either side of your laptop. I've used an external display. To this time around, I actually brought the second laptop because of the Qualcomm thing, but also too to serve as a second display in case I needed it. It turned out I didn't. But this is it's not a foldable, and it's not really like a rolling screen, but it's a screen it's a 14-inch notebook, and it essentially goes from a 14.3 on the diagonal and extends it up vertically. So I think the total is actually 16, but it looks very much like 2.
16 by 9 is it's like
right.
2 16 by 9
exactly right. So it's
aspect ratios.
Right, exactly. So it's it's essentially 2 displays sitting one over the other, but it's a solid window of display. And what's interesting is the fact that because you're getting these 2 additional windows, you're essentially subdividing. You can subdivide the screen in a way that's useful. What's also, and I didn't have a chance to try this, they also tell me that if you want to share your screen, like in a Zoom call, you can take one of those virtual screens and share it and keep the other one for your own personal little space or something of that sort. So that it does it in a couple of nifty ways. But
real quick, does Windows detect it as 2 screens, or is it like through a Lenovo software?
That is a good question. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I had, like I said, I didn't have a chance to use it. But the fact that you can go ahead and essentially turn one display into 2 is something that in a single form factor, you don't actually have to bring anything else or stick in your backpack, your suitcase, and so forth. That struck me as something that's pretty cool. It used to be a prototype, and now it's an actual full-fledged product. I talked to Matthew Smith, who does some of our monitor coverage, and apparently after talking with Lenovo, they've tested it to 20,000 I guess you'd call them cycles up and down. So, I think of it as something that you would take, sort of for work you might take on the road. So 20,000 cycles seems pretty reasonable to me. So, I thought that was a useful addition to the sort of the work on the road, pantheon or, ecosystem, whatever you want to do. So my other choice for best of show was like... oh my god, one of the best things I've seen in a long time, and that was Stern Pinball's Dungeons and Dragons pinball table, and I absolutely it's called Dungeons and Dragons: The Tyrant's Eye.
I don't think I've seen Mark this excited.
I know.
Yeah, he's hyped.
Yeah,
Are you traditionally a pinball guy?
I don't own a pinball table. I've owned virtual pinball simulations in the past. I wouldn't consider myself to be a great pinball player, but there's something about just the speed, the quickness, the reflexes, and so forth. That have the ability to make various shots. Moving the ball from one flip to the other. The panic and chaos of multi-ball and so forth. That's what a normal pinball table is. With this, it's like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. So, imagine you're rolling dice, right? Instead of rolling dice, you're playing pinball. So it starts out, you're picking
I want one.
It starts out,
you're excited.
You're picking a character, right? So you got to choose from your cleric, your fighter, your dragonborn, and so forth. So you set off, and then you're going, on an adventure. You can go ahead and different school shots unlock different quests, right? And you're adding, apparently, what's interesting is that it pairs to an app, which I didn't have a chance to try, but apparently there's progression of your character.
Right.
So you're saving your character as you're going along. You're doing various things. There's an animatronic dragon voiced by Michael Dorn, Worf, right? How can you get better than a voice actor than that, right? And it's just it was just oh my God, this is way beyond anything that I've ever seen before. I've always liked Jurassic Park. The original Jurassic Park table had an animatronic T-Rex go down and grab the ball and start off multi-ball and so forth. But this is I was blown away by this, and so it's sure $7,000.
Oh no!
But they'll have
only 7,000.
I'm good.
Comes in a basic edition, pro edition, and a limited edition. They all have slightly different feature sets. But the guy was like, "Hey, you want to do a video on it? You want to have it come?" Because Stern apparently is in San Francisco, and he was like, "You want to have it come by your office?" And I'm like, "How do I balance my ethics versus my like, oh god, I would love to play with this for a long period of time. Yeah, it was really really cool.
I had no idea you were a
every
pinball
year,
wizard.
every year Stern has something new, and usually they're kind of like, I don't know, like some event, Avengers or something of that sort, and they're neat, but. Man, this was heads and tails, but anything I've ever seen before. I was just like, yeah, this is great.
The app in it was really interesting.
You saw the app?
Oh yeah. So essentially, you think about pinball. You got your 3 balls, and then game's over.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But when you die, that XP goes to your count. So it's almost like a roguelike. You know what I mean? Like you were just earning to continue on the quest. So you just keep going.
Oh wait, so you have quests and you can continue those quests, but
Single Shot will ask you to do something.
So you link your account to this, and so it's just kind of this continuing conversation. And because it's like web enabled and all that stuff, every week they're gonna have a new quest, so you can just continue. Like it's not a game that is just set in time like all the other pinball games.
Right. Is this new for Stern? Is this like a new thing?
I'm not really sure. This is the most time I've spent with them, but I learned.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to get to them, and they're like, you have to come. I mean, because I was interested in Stern. I'm like, yeah, I'm a fan. I love pinball. They're like, you have to see this. And I was just like, yeah. I was just walked away saying, wow.
Do they finance?
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm sure. The problem with pinball, of course, is if anything mechanical goes wrong, then you have to like take it apart and fix it yourself, or have to have somebody else fix it. And there's a lot of mechanical things along with it. But I mean, just the overarching concept, it was like amazing.
Yeah.
So
the table is 300 pounds. So when they were like, oh yeah, maybe we can figure something out, and they go, oh, where are you located? And I said, Hawaii. They said, we'll talk to you later. We're not doing that. So.
Yeah. So that, obviously, best of show, no problem.
Wow.
Yep.
Did you have another one or?
Nope. That's
no.
it.
Okay. So I guess I didn't know you could have multiple ones. So So I guess I'm probably stealing one. I haven't read the article, so I'm probably going to steal one, which is pretty straightforward. Which I bet is, if I had to guess, it would be Brad's best of show was 5090, the Founders Edition. Like that card, the engineering on it. I have an interview with one of the guys at NVIDIA, just kind of going over not even specs, speed feeds, anything like that. Just like the actual industrial design of the card, talking about the multiple PCBs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like over-engineered.
Yeah,
like to the nth degree. Once again, just like a flex. Like, hey, check out what we can do. And then I remember seeing those slits, and then finding out that those slits are actually to direct airflow to the side of the card, so that it doesn't like create like a vortex, and like the exhaust doesn't then intake the heat. Super well engineered. Super cool.
And the size of the PCB, I mean, it's just tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, not relatively.
And you were saying the caps on the back. What were the
caps
of
were
that stuff?
massive. So they offset that main board instead of being like flush like a normal back of a board was. It was more centered into the actual frame of the cooler.
To accommodate the caps.
Yeah, because when I didn't realize like that the PCI was on a breakout board. Like the PCI strip was on a breakout board.
Yeah, connected by a ribbon cable.
Yeah, because when he turned it over and I saw those caps, I was like, how are those not like sticking out of the back plate?
Right.
And then he started to explain it, and I was like, this is, as somebody that I love PCBs and like layouts and traces and just following it, it was just like I could sit there and just spend a while and just follow the MOSFETs, and
it's really hard to get on video and like describe, but it has like a concave nature to the fin stack on the side of it. He gives an explanation of why they had to do that for the pressure.
Yeah, it's pressure
even
density.
out the pressure.
Yeah. So what I gathered from hearing it is so that it forces the heat to where the airflow is, rather than allowing the heat to soak in a more dense area that's not getting active airflow. It's able to draw it out and away from the fan hub, essentially.
Right.
But it has like such a subtle feel to it.
Like everything's intentional with it. Like everything on it has a purpose.
I am personally excited to watch Steve's teardown of it when it comes out.
Somebody else.
I ain't tearing it down. And then Liquid Metal. Crazy. Anyway, but my original one, the one that I'm going to submit, because I'm going to assume that Brad already had the 5090, was that eGPU. Because I love the promise of an eGPU. right? And it's never quite been there. You had a really good video on it, Russ, about like the promise of it and kind of where it's at. And I'm not saying this like solves all of that for sure, but what it brings to the table is something fresh and something new. And Thunderbolt 5 is supposed to be the promise of that. So it's not only the fact that it's obviously 5090 laptop, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of performance, but the new case design, the transparent plastic doesn't hurt.
Right.
It looks really nice. And then Thunderbolt 5. So right now maybe we don't see the full benefit of it, but
It's like 3 notebooks. To
I
support
know,
Thunderbolt 5.
yeah. But sometime in the future, I think we will.
Yeah.
Like, super cool. Like,
That's what I love about it, is that everything now works for it, and everything later will too.
yeah, and it is crazy. I feel I didn't talk to anybody specifically at ASUS that said this, but I almost feel like it's a passion project because eGPUs are such a niche of a niche, right? And like for ASUS to actually continue to make eGPU solutions surprises me, right? Like they can't be being like, oh man, we're gonna sell a bunch of these. I bet
Right.
these are gonna knock the doors down. So to be able to like do that, I feel like maybe there's a champion out there or something for it. I'm not quite sure, but super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool piece of hardware, and I was not expecting it at all. I think that's the other part of it is if you would have told me, oh hey, there's going to be an eGPU at CES, I'd be like, I don't believe you.
Right.
So like surprise factor definitely weighs into it
Yeah.
as well. So yeah. Anything else? Any other exciting news stuff we want to catch on before we get out
I'll
of
give
here?
you one here. This
Oh,
is
please.
totally off topic.
Yeah.
Well, not off topic.
The
but-
Atari handheld.
No, so
Impressive.
Similar, like kind of old school thing is that so Hyperkin is like a kind of cheaper controller company or whatever. And back in the day, think of them like Mad Cats. Everyone knows Mad Cats, right?
Oh yeah.
So they probably don't like me saying that, but when it comes down to it, though, they came up with a lot of peripherals during the Guitar Hero and Rock Band era. Remember, everyone had that kind of stuff, and then that just died so
Yeah,
fast,
it did,
right?
but-
They are bringing back the Wii Guitar Hero controller, and they really are not changing much about it. They're just making it available again.
Wait,
And so-
but it makes it the Wii version because it has the
it's
plug?
for the Wii, yeah. So you put your remote inside of the guitar itself. You plug it in, you put it in, and then
wow.
it just works with Guitar Hero and Rock Band and all that kind of stuff. But this guitar and basically all of these old school guitars from 10, 15 years ago and beyond, they are so expensive now. If you go into a retro game store, you're
Because
going to
everyone
pay,
threw them away because everyone
Right.
was like, there's a ton of these.
yeah, so you're going to pay $150,
Smash.
$200 for one of these things. And they just said, you know what? We still have the old molds. These guys keep these molds for a long time. They're still good.
Huh.
So we're going to make new molds, or not new molds, but new shells, and then new PCBs with it. A couple updates to the buttons and whatnot. So I had the opportunity to be the first guy in America to actually
What?
unbox it yesterday.
Whoa.
And just
Do
kind
you
of
have a
get some
video on
footage.
this, or-
Yeah, it'll go into my roundup, basically.
Dang.
And so it's nothing special. It's not like, there's a lot of people who are into like Clone Heroes, an app that people use
Yeah.
nowadays and stuff.
Mm.
Nothing like that. This is going to work on the Wii, right? But it's available, and I think it's a really cool pro-consumer move to be like, hey, I don't know how they're going to charge
Yeah.
30, 40 bucks or whatever,
Right.
but it's going to be a lot cheaper than the $150, $200 used one from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I just thought it was really cool. It just
Huh.
we see a lot of like latest and greatest and stuff, but they're like, hey, let's just kind of do this for everybody else. And so I thought that was really cool.
And why the Wii specifically? Like, is that like the most popular?
I think it's the
Guitar
most
Hero?
requested one. And if you think about it too, the Wii is the console that you can still walk into a retro game store and pick up for 20, 30, 40 bucks.
Really?
Like it's still a cheap console because there's so many of them. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not in huge high demand anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's still the one. You cannot go and buy a GameCube for a good price. Like it's really hard. And so I think it's actually probably the right choice to make in terms of that. And
I like
Xbox
it.
and PlayStation, none of that stuff really has that same nostalgic vibe because
That's
they've
true.
just kind of moved on to the next iterations.
Sure.
Whereas the Wii has
Huh.
got its own kind of setup.
And
So
it's
Right.
for Rock Band or Guitar Hero
either.
or both.
Yes.
Either. So it'll work. Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
So my plan is I told him to send me one, even though I don't do a lot of original console stuff. I'm going to try to see if I can get it to work in Dolphin, which is like the GameCube Wii emulator,
Wow.
and see if we can just use it on our PC.
Yeah, is it are there adapters that have the Wii controller plug to a USB so that you can get it in?
Yeah, yeah. And so,
Really?
but it's wireless, so it's really
Oh,
just
it's
a matter of
wireless.
connecting.
Oh, yeah, duh, because it's the
Right.
remote. I'm sorry.
Yeah, all good.
Is there latency that would play into it?
I didn't get to play it, but I'm sure there's going to be some issue like that. I
How
mean,
is
it's
the-
not going to be a perfect experience,
right.
but
Yeah, how does the plastic feel? I mean,
it's good. I mean, it just feel like I was, doing the whole, transporting me back.
was
to
it clicky or
2007.
squishy? Because that's why I liked Rock or Guitar Hero way better than Rock Band
Yeah,
Guitar.
more Guitar
because,
Hero.
Yeah, Guitar Hero had that click where the Rock Band one just felt kind of
so
mushy.
Guitar Hero Les Paul feel basically. So
Okay.
Xbox 360, Guitar Hero 3.
Well, I guess I got to go pick a Wii up.
Yeah, there you go.
Cheap?
And it'll be
Cheap?
cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Hot tip. I love it. I love it. Good stuff. To check in on Notre Dame. How's it going?
Oh
no.
That's okay. No,
Willis.
you know what I just wanted to mention too,
Yes.
since we always follow the chip coolers, Ventiva.
True.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
mention that.
yeah.
Ventiva seems to be. If there's a horse race, Ventiva is probably at one of the front of the pack at this point in time, only because that they've been endorsed by Intel and they are actually in a prototype by Dell, which no guarantee that's going to come out, but I mean we're further along than we have been in the past. No slight to either 4 or X members or any of those guys, but it's been a lot of promises, at least and with Ventiva, which I think you're going down and seeing them fairly soon. They have a sort of an ionic solution that is designed to pull, a few. There's a story on the website, but to pull some heat off of a Lunar Lake processor, and basically just replace a blower and kicking it outside. It's an interesting technology.
The war on fans continues.
The war
for
on
sure.
fans
I feel like this is
continues,
the new entrant for
now,
sure.
people have seen it, or people who have heard of it before have been concerned about things like ozone. They've been concerned about things like dust. The story actually goes into that. Talks a little about how they've plans to mitigate the ozone by applying essentially like a catalytic converter. And also, too, basically just how they plan to address the dust issue, which they're kind of being a little bit cagey about right now, but it sounds like they do have a solution. So, the fact that Intel has endorsed them, that's a big deal.
Oh, and Dell.
Yeah,
yeah,
Dell,
and
too.
I actually interviewed Travis North, the thermal engineer from Dell that Gordon had interviewed years ago.
Yes.
Super cool interview. Go back and watch that series
That's
of
a heat
interviews.
joke right there.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. I like that. Yeah, super cool guy, and like they push stuff. Like they have to validate the testing for all this stuff.
Right.
So for them to go out, and even though it's a prototype, and who knows how far along in the process or validation, and if it'll ever even come into market, who knows? But to have like those two main companies come out and be like, yeah, check this out.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So yeah, and another knock against fans, like, because that's at the end of the day,
Fans are
we
bad.
need new for thin and light laptops, for smaller solutions. The fan is not efficient. We need to move away from it. It's loud, it's clunky, and it's not the most efficient thing.
Nope.
And I love that there's just new technology out there trying to push the limits and like do different things. Actually, you know what? Oh man, I totally forgot to mention this. At the HP booth at Showstop or Pepcom, HP had their new Omen gaming laptop that had a fan in it. So the problem is that fans over the course of in a laptop over the course of a year get gunked up,
They do.
and they
That's right.
don't. It's not as efficient anymore. So one of the things that they're trying to do to add longevity to those fans is to every once in a while, while it's not under full load, it'll actually reverse direction.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
That's one technique to do. Mhm.
essentially, kind of like try to get the gunk out there. I didn't see a demo. I don't really know, but the guy that I talked to was super cool. But like I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, these guys kind of intimated they could, but they didn't really say they could. So I'm not entirely certain that option applies there either. But
Yeah.
anyways, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, they
Yep.
did say it's a price premium to be able to build a fan that
that's
can
right.
do that. So it's only in the high-end Omen laptop, but interesting.
Indeed.
Willis, you had something to say. Oh, he's coming over. Oh, magical Willis
This
appears.
is Russ, actually.
Oh, come on,
Hi,
scoot
Russ.
over.
How
Yeah.
you doing? So, speaking of Pepcom,
Willis, Willis Live,
you guys need to
everybody.
confirm.
Wait, who's manning the controls? Uh-oh.
No one. It's on AI Auto right now.
Oh, AI. The AI
So,
got it.
Russ, I need you to confirm with me and Adam.
Oh my gosh.
did Snoop Dogg appear at CES? Was it really Snoop Dogg? Because I think, Mark, you had doubts that was
I
Snoop Dogg.
definitely had doubts. My bet is against it. Yep.
Not only did Mark have doubts, there was plenty of doubts. I was on. We were walking around PepCom.
Yeah.
I was on the call with my wife, just like chatting, and I was like, I got to call you right back, because some dude was getting a photo taken with another guy, and I was like, who is this? And then I looked, and I was like, oh my God, that's Snoop Dogg. And so I just like rushed up and was like, can I get a photo? And he's like, yeah.
So I was the next person in line. After he did that, he came to me, and that enthusiasm
I was like, dude,
went straight into me. Where he's like,
check out my
that
phone,
is
dude.
Snoop Dogg.
I got a picture
right?
with Snoop Dogg.
And so then I started talking to my guys, and I was like, that's Snoop Dogg, and it just like it escalated. But here we are 3 days later, and I'm pretty sure that it was not Snoop Dogg.
No.
Yeah.
There was no entourage. There were no bodyguards.
Yeah, everyone we were
And he
talking
hung out
to
there
was
the
like,
whole night.
are you sure it was him?
Yeah.
Like at a little booth.
Right.
With a company at Lockley, I think was the company
Yeah.
he was repping, kind of thing, and it's like, nothing against them, but it's not like it's a, major brand. That,
Yeah. Maybe a
you would
cousin
think
or
that Snoop
something.
Dogg. Yeah. And so and then the next morning, the joke was we just kept being like, I don't think that was Snoop Dogg.
Although at that point, you should have just doubled down. You just
I
said
should've doubled down.
absolutely.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
you're wrong.
Yeah,
you're
you're
wrong.
absolutely wrong.
I will
Yeah.
never forget the moment. I shook his hand and I said, "You are an inspiration." And I was like, "What do I mean by that?" First of all, and then what is he taking that as? And so
That man had a great night.
Hey, spot on.
Yeah.
He looked really good.
It
He looked
really was.
really accurate.
Yeah.
he looked really
I would say
accurate, yeah.
Dan was the first one to kind of, like cut it down a little bit. He's like, how tall is Snoop Dogg? So we looked it up. He's 6'4", and we kind of looked, and we looked at the photo, and he was like the same height as me, like about
you guys-
6'2".
yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe he's older, maybe he's hunched down a little bit or something.
Gravity's taking over.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you talked to him because you took a photo with him.
I did
so
not talk
was
to him.
like,
I was
okay.
just like, can I take your photo? And he's like,
I
or
think
can I get a photo with you? He's like,
he was in
yeah.
awe. He didn't want to. Yeah.
I know I was. I also, yeah.
Did he put his hand out afterwards, like tip?
No. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. I think the biggest tell, the biggest giveaway, there was no entourage, there was no security. Like, and last year at PepCom, Paul Abdul was there to help with like a smart glasses brand or something, and like the whole place just like flooded and rushed, and I was like, okay, if everyone's gonna rush over to Paul Abdul, no offense to Paul Abdul, but she ain't no Snoop Dogg.
I was chasing.
Yeah, like I feel like the whole place, I was like, why is not anybody just running over to Snoop Dogg? And I was like, oh, maybe because of
in your
Snoop
defense,
Dogg.
though, I did talk to him for a bit, and it does sound like him,
Really?
but it did not smell like him.
Oh, yeah, with that, yeah, I think, if you know. Willis, best of show. I know you're not covering PC stuff, but anything you saw at the show that was interesting?
Oh man, I was thinking that for a while. I'm gonna have to
It's a
get
horrible
back to me.
show. It's just been a horrible show.
It's just
for
been
Willis.
so busy. I was
He's
like, I'm
tired.
seeing
Yeah.
a lot of robot vacuums. Oh, actually,
Yeah, how many robot vacuums do you need?
at Roborock, we did see a robot vacuum that has an arm that articulates out, and then it goes out to pick up objects that, like, say, dog toys or children's toys,
I
and
saw
they'll
that
just
one.
and they'll just put it in a.
So it just like pops up and just
Yeah.
grabs it.
Yeah.
But
And so-
what does it do with it?
Throws it.
It just chucks it at you.
Get
Clean
out of the
up
way.
your own mess.
And then when it gets over there, it chucks it back.
Yeah. No, it just slowly just goes and just drops it into like a place that you would designate once you map it out on your map. Yeah, but we were Niron and I from Tech Hive were saying that this is kind of like, was it Robot Wars? Yeah.
Yeah.
BattleBots.
BattleBots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
BattleBot. Yeah. So it's just like, oh, now they're just having like attachments to these robot vacuums.
How much are they?
Supposedly
I forgot the price.
It wasn't that strong either. Like it couldn't lift up a pair of shoes or something like that. That's what Emma said.
Yeah.
Not a shoe, but like socks and everything. Something
like
light,
socks,
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Just overvolt it.
Overvolted. Oh, yeah. Really burn
Yeah,
out that
right.
motor.
Yeah.
Get it going. It's like, yeah. Anyway. Thank you, Willis.
No problem. Anytime.
Yeah.
I'll give it.
I think we're gonna wrap it up here. We didn't touch enough of our snacks. We didn't eat chips on the microphone. I know everyone
Here,
loves.
would you like me
do
to take
that.
a bite? Just
Hey, go for it.
Just one.
Yeah. I'll let you do it. There you go. This is a Ruffles cheddar. The no, don't do the. Yeah, you're good. We're good. Oh, you did. You wait. All right. Sorry, we're at the end here. We're getting silly. Do we want to take the shots? Is it shot time now?
You can.
Okay. Yeah, we got screwballs. For us screwballs. And then Keith has a moonshine.
I'm gonna drink the screwball because I don't want to be left out.
Yeah.
Gesture did ask, since it's full nerd after dark, do you get to use one swear word?
You do.
Ooh, actually, you used the swear word earlier.
I did
so
use this
yeah,
word.
you did.
I guess our
expend it,
allotments
so
when you
yeah.
used up. Sorry. Fuck. Well, that was really a swear.
Oh.
I
The
said it.
FCC won't let him be.
Oh man. Oh no. Okay. Yes. Screwball. You haven't had screwball before.
I haven't.
Peanut butter whiskey.
Peanut butter whiskey.
Yeah.
Ooh, that smells
Cheers.
so good.
Cheers to the team.
No.
Cheers.
No.
Cheers to you guys. Cheers to Dan, Willis, to Alex, all the rest of the team here. I mean, we got a big team. Go read PCWorld, the awesome articles. Mike Kreider holding it down. Brad for working while he was
with COVID.
very sick.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
All that stuff. Definitely in memory of Gordon. We miss you. So here's to you. And why don't you take us out, Willis, while we do our shot.
Goodbye, everyone.